Chapter 183. I am the strongest and the one who holds all victory in my hands. No matter if it is a human or a demon, I will defeat any enemy that stands in my way. Giant with supreme divine power, give me your aid. Fear the one with wings. Evil people and powerful people are all afraid of me with wings. My wings will bring you a curse. Evil people will not be able to hit me. In an instant, Wyrm chanted 2 words in a row. The long and short needles on the stone plate in his heart pointed at 2:00 and 10 o'clock respectively. The towering giant and the illusory phoenix lit up. At a speed that was difficult to be seen by the naked eye, Wyrm rushed to a small forest not far away. Wyrm raised an arm and the shadow of a giant's hand appeared. Then, the giant's hand slammed into the house. Boom! The hurricane surged in all directions and the earth groaned. The hurricane blew over some of the surrounding buildings. Even Liliana, who was unprepared, was blown away. With the house as the center, the ground cracked like a spider web. However, Wyrm did not feel like he had hit the target. A black shadow escaped from the house before Wyrm hit it. Master Villo, please stop. The black shadow let out a voice that Wyrm missed. What's this voice? Wyrm stopped and dismissed the 2 avatars. Looking at the black shadow that he could not see clearly, Wyrm was a little excited. It can't be wrong. It's you, Guinevere. The black shadow walked in front of Wyrm and revealed her true form. It was a beautiful white girl about 12 or 13 years old. Her golden curly hair outlined an elegant curve and set off an extremely beautiful face. She was like a child's version of the Guinevere that Wyrm knew in the Moon world. Master Villo, I missed you so much. With a choked voice, Guinevere threw herself into Wyrm's arms. Wyrm squatted down, as if he was a father hugging his daughter. I don't know what kind of relationship Guinevere and I have in this world, but King Arthur is not a woman. With that in mind, Wyrm patted Guinevere's back. Although it wasn't Guinevere from the same world, the sense of familiarity he felt was the same. Guinevere, why are you here? Wyrm asked with concern. Guinevere wiped his tears, raised his head, and looked at Wyrm. Master Villo, I came to find the last king. Guinevere then spoke to his shadow. Uncle, please come out. In a split second, Guinevere's shadow rippled as a fully armored knight appeared from Guinevere's shadow. Master Villo, it's my honor to see you again. The neutral voice conveyed from the heavy armor made Wyrm wonder if Lancelot in this world was a man. Seeing that Wyrm didn't speak, Guinevere thought that Wyrm was blaming Lancelot, and quickly explained. Master Villo, Uncle appeared as my patron saint, God's shadow. Because of his berserk skill, he lost the memory of the people he knew, and I lost my memory because I reincarnated for too long. I didn't mean to neglect you. If I didn't come in close contact with you, I wouldn't have recognized you. Seeing that Guinevere seemed to have misunderstood something, Wyrm smiled and shook his head. I don't mean to blame you, I'm just thinking about what you said about the last king. Master Villo, don't you know the last king? I thought you were the last king. Guinevere said with some disappointment. Then, Lancelot spoke. Lord Wyrm, Wuhawu's daughter came here for the strongest steel god. We want to use the dragon snake to lure the last king out. After a brief description, Wyrm understood Guinevere and Lancelot's plan. Both of them had their own mission, to find the last king and liberate the strongest steel. However, neither of them knew the identity of the last king, so they could only keep looking for him. The easiest way to find steel was to liberate Dragon Snake. Therefore, Hera's stone pillar under the ruins of Naples became a good tool to use. However, Salvatore was an unexpected guest. Salvatore was knocked out in a fight with Wyrm, so Salvatore, who felt that he had not fought enough, found this relic in Italy. It was the Hera's stone pillar. After cutting Hera's stone pillar in half with silver arm the rip, the huge magical impact sent Salvatore flying. The demonic dragon condensed from the magical power of the spiritual vein of Naples attracted Perseus. Liliana wanted to stop Salvatore's behavior because she was with Salvatore before, but because she didn't stop it in time, Hera's stone pillar was cut off. After Salvatore was sent flying by the magical impact, Liliana wanted to stop the dragon from wreaking havoc, so she followed the dragon. As a result, she saw that Perseus was going to attack the dragon, and then it was Wyrm's turn. With the idea of seeing whether Perseus was the last king, Guinevere and Lancelot hid and waited for the battle between Wyrm and Perseus. The result was no doubt that Wyrm won. I've already said that Lord Varen's status is not something a mere mitra can compare to, Lancelot said. Hearing this, Wyrm thought of the light that Perseus released at the end, which was like a sun, and why Perseus said that it couldn't be sealed. When Wyrm first met Perseus, he quietly asked Callis to find out all the information about Perseus. He had no doubt that Perseus was Wyrm of Mitra. And because Perseus was Mitra, he had a sealing effect on Welislana's authority. However, what Perseus did not expect was that the 10 avatars that had become Wyrm's noble phantasm could no longer be affected by Mitra. After all, the 12 avatars of Wyrm had exclusive authority. I'm really happy to be able to see Sir Villo. Guinevere smiled sweetly. This reminded Wyrm of Guinevere in the Moon world. Both of them loved to smile. Regardless of whether they were related or not, Wyrm still liked Guinevere, who loved to smile. Although it's a little surprising that Sir Villo became a god-slayer, did Sir Villo also use some secret technique to turn people around? Guinevere said softly. We're very sorry, Sir Villo. Since you've become a god-slayer, you definitely won't be the last king, Lancelot continued Guinevere's words. I wish you success, Sir Villo. Lancelot summoned a white horse and left with Guinevere. Wyrm did not stop them. Instead, he was deep in thought. Chapter 184. Wyrm stood on the spot and pondered. It was only when Liliana, who was blown away, came back to Wyrm that Wyrm reacted. My king, are you all right? Liliana asked worriedly. Although Liliana was puzzled when Wyrm attacked the forest, she saw a figure dodging Wyrm's attack the moment she was blown away. Liliana was worried that Wyrm was affected by an unknown mysterious person. That was why she was so worried. After all, he was the king. I'm fine. After Wyrm came back to his senses, he remembered something. He had not yet asked what Perseus's authority was. He shook his head regretfully. Then, let's restore this place to its original state, Wyrm said as he reached his hand into the golden ripple. Then, Wyrm took out the item that was used to restore the land and buildings. As mana was transported into the item, the damaged land and buildings began to recover. Liliana looked at the scene in surprise and made a strange sound. After restoring all the damaged land to its original state, Wyrm looked at Liliana. Let's go. Bring me to the Bronze Cross and Black Cross stronghold to sleep. Damn it, I'm exhausted after fighting in the middle of the night. Wyrm stretched and yawned. Liliana seemed to have thought of something and her young face blushed. As if she had made a big decision, Liliana blushed and looked at Wyrm solemnly. I understand. If I can appease the king's anger, then I can. At the end of her sentence, Liliana's voice was completely inaudible. Wyrm looked strangely at Liliana, who had turned into a mosquito coil with smoke coming out of her head. Then, he knocked on her head. All right, bring me to the Bronze Cross stronghold first. Yes. Yes. Wyrm left with Liliana. After a while, Guinevere and Lancelot returned. Uncle, why are you avoiding Sir Villo? Also, I haven't told Lord Wyrm about the arrowhead disc absorbing Perseus's authority. Guinevere held a stone disc in his hand. There was a special sword-shaped text on it. Guinevere looked at Lancelot, who was hugging him, in confusion. That's right, Wyrm didn't obtain authority after killing Perseus because of the stone disc in Guinevere's hand. That was the treasure of the last king. It had the ability to absorb and use the power of steel. Moreover, Lancelot was indeed avoiding Wyrm. This was something that Wyrm could see. My beloved daughter, since Mr. Villo has become a god-slayer, he is our enemy. Lancelot's helmeted eyes glowed red. Enemy? Guinevere found it hard to accept. Guinevere, who had lost most of his memories, felt incomparably blessed when he was able to recall Vero Cyrus Eddy. The gods of this world had multiple identities. Although the Guinevere of this world wasn't completely Guinevere, he still had memories of his time as Guinevere. Guinevere's eyes were a little wet when he remembered what he had experienced with his personal knight, Vilo Thranst. However, it was Guinevere's lifelong wish to find and unseal the last king. I understand, uncle. Although Guinevere seemed to be in pain, he still decided to treat Wyrm as an enemy. Lancelot nodded. After a while, Guinevere sighed and looked at Lancelot behind him. Guinevere smiled and said, "Actually, uncle, you are the one suffering the most." Lancelot's body trembled and his hands clenched into fists. People always thought that the person Lancelot respected and admired the most was King Arthur, but in reality, the person Lancelot respected and admired the most was King Arthur's first knight, Vilo Thranst. Guinevere looked at Lancelot with a pained expression and continued. Because of the relationship between Vilo and Guinevere, after Vilo was sealed as the demonic dragon, Lancelot volunteered to be Guinevere's personal knight and protect the person he respected the most. Just like that, Lancelot became Guinevere's guardian and appeared on the ground as the shadow of God, until today when he met that lord again. Lancelot was silent for a moment before he spoke. I'm protecting you because you are the prerequisite to finding the last king. There is no other reason. I'm a little weak now, so I'll return to your shadow. Then, Lancelot and the white horse turned into a black shadow and merged into Guinevere's shadow. You're not frank at all, uncle. Guinevere smiled. Next, it's Monarch Ape in the easternmost land. Dark clouds covered the moon and darkness shrouded the land. A moment later, the wind blew away the dark clouds and Guinevere was long gone. The next day. Although Wyrm slept very late last night, he still woke up early. When he walked out of the room that Liliana prepared for Wyrm at the Bronze Black Cross last night, he heard a pleasant female voice. Lord Wyrm, you're up. Do you need me to prepare breakfast? A girl in a maid uniform asked Wyrm. Hearing that, Wyrm looked at the girl. Her long green hair flowed naturally behind her back and her face was filled with a sly smile, from Wyrm's perspective. I remember your name is Karen, right? Wyrm asked. Yes, it's my honor to be remembered by Lord Wyrm. The girl named Karen bowed and replied with a smile. Then, I'll have to trouble you to prepare breakfast for me, Wyrm said. Your breakfast has been prepared by Miss Liliana. Please come with me. With that, Karen pointed forward with both hands and motioned for Wyrm to go first. Wyrm shrugged and walked forward. Karen followed behind Wyrm with a smile on her face. Glancing at the maid, Wyrm could not help but think of last night. After Liliana brought Wyrm to the Bronze Black Cross's stronghold in Naples, Liliana personally prepared a room for Wyrm. Karen was also there at that time, and Liliana introduced her to Wyrm. Then, after Wyrm entered the room, Liliana walked in pajamas after a short while. Looking at the blushing Liliana, Wyrm shook his head and asked for the reason. In the end, because of Liliana's fantasy and the instigation and bewitching words of the maid named Karen, Liliana thought that she had to serve Wyrm in bed to appease his anger. After being lectured by Wyrm for a while, Liliana ran out of the room with a blush. You won't even let go of your master. You really are a little devil, Wyrm said casually. Thank you for the compliment, Lord Wyrm. Karen smiled and thanked Wyrm. Soon, Wyrm arrived at the dining room. Chapter 185. When he pushed open the door of the restaurant, what he saw was not the luxurious feast that Wyrm had imagined. Instead, it was an extremely simple Italian breakfast. Sandwiches, sausages, fried eggs, bread, and a cup of coffee. It was simple and sumptuous. Seeing Wyrm's stunned expression, Liliana, who was standing at the side, was a little flustered. Because I don't know what you like, King. However, I heard that you are the British god of disobedience, so I tried to make some British breakfast food. Looking at Liliana who was a little embarrassed, Wyrm laughed heartily. Ha ha ha. Liliana was frightened by Wuming's laughter, while Karen was secretly laughing. She had already heard that there was no dissatisfaction in this laughter, only happiness. Sorry. Because every time I'm served by others, it's an extremely sumptuous banquet, so I'm not used to such dullness. Then, Wuming walked to the table and sat down. However, although this food is simple, it feels sumptuous. I'm very satisfied, Liliana. Liliana heaved a sigh of relief and patted her small chest that had just developed. King, it's good that you like it. Wuming took a bite of the fried egg. It was surprisingly not bad. Could it be that Liliana made all these herself? Wuming asked. Why yes. Liliana's face was slightly red as she said shyly. Your culinary skills are really good. Do you want to come and be my knight? Wuming said with a smile. Huh? Liliana exclaimed. It was obvious that she did not react in time. I'm serious. I'm very satisfied with your performance last night. For this land, you launched an attack on Perseus alone. Although you overestimated yourself, this is what a knight should be like. Think about it. Perhaps it was because he had been in Camelot for too long, Wuming had a particularly good impression of people with chivalry. Moreover, she was a beautiful young lady. Cough cough, Karen walked to Wuming's side and said, I'm sorry, Lord Wuming. I'll go and persuade Miss Liliana. I'll take my leave first. After bowing, Karen brought Liliana out of the restaurant without any explanation. Karen, huh? I remember that you're the trainee witch of the Bronze Black Cross. You really live up to the title of witch. This character. Wuming smiled, then began to enjoy the food again. Outside the door, Karen, stood, Liliana. Karen, what are you doing? It's rude to leave the king alone. As she spoke, Liliana pretended to go back. Miss Liliana, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Liliana was Liliana and LLA. Our Bronze Black Cross and Red Bronze Black Cross are the two biggest magic associations in Italy. We used to have equal status. In the end, Lady Erica Brantley sought refuge with Lord Wuming. Our Bronze Black Cross has gradually declined. Karen turned around and continued, also, because of your incompetence, Marquis Wabin also thought that you're dead. If Lord Marquis finds out that you're still alive, he'll go and look for you. Who knows what this eccentric Lord Marquis will do? Liliana's body trembled. For example, the Bronze Black Cross of Destruction, the original plan was for you to seek refuge with Minister Salvatore, but in the end, you lost him. Last night, because Salvatore Toni slashed open the god relic Hera's stone pillar, he was swept away by the huge magic impact. Moreover, Lord Wuming requested to bring him to the Bronze Black Cross foothold, so Liliana missed the King of Swords. Didn't you want to give yourself to the King of Disobedience yesterday? Why don't you seek refuge with him? Liliana blushed again as she spoke to this point. It's all because of you. Otherwise, why would I misinterpret the king's words? Liliana pointed at Karen with a blushing face. Don't you think this is fated, Ms. Liliana? Karen smiled faintly. Fated? Fated? Liliana could not react in time. Karen smiled cunningly and continued to explain. On the night of the disaster, the hero and the heroine met under the moon. The hero defeated the evil opponent and brought the heroine home safely. As Karen's words bewitched her, Liliana, who was delusional, began to fantasize with a blushing face. Ms. Liliana. Karen interrupted Liliana's fantasy. After snapping back to her senses, Liliana coughed with a blushing face. Cough. Looking at the current situation, that's the only way. Oh, Ms. Liliana, you're not frank at all. Looking at Karen's mocking smile, Liliana was like an angry kitten. At this moment, a voice sounded. How is it? Have you thought it through? Wuming stood beside the two girls and said. When? Both Liliana and Karen were shocked. After snapping back to her senses, Liliana knelt on one knee. Liliana Kranikar, I offer my everything to the king of god slayers. I will turn into a sharp sword and cut through all enemies that block the path of the king. Just like that, Liliana became Wuming's knight. So, this is your excuse to take advantage of my absence. Erika looked at the serious Liliana and was a little displeased. The next day, Erika found that Wuming was missing, so she urgently contacted Wuming. After learning that Wuming was in Naples, she immediately rushed over. And no choice. I came because I saw that Lord Wuming needs talents around him. After all, how can the king not have a servant who knows how to cook? Liliana blushed a little. Although Erika was right, Liliana would definitely not compromise with her rival. Oh, is that so? Then Lily, as the head chef, you can prepare food for the king in the rear. If there is any battle, I, Erika Brantley, will take care of it. What? Damn Erika, I am the king's knight. Preparing food for the king is just a side job. Oh, you don't care about preparing food for the king. This is the dream of many people. It seems that Lily, you still underestimate the king too much. How could that be? I didn't mean that. Seeing Liliana gradually being forced into a disadvantageous position by Erika, Wuming interrupted the conversation between the two. Okay, that's enough. Get ready, we will go to Japan tomorrow. Huh? Go to Japan, why so suddenly? Liliana was puzzled. After all, the original plan was to go to Japan. Wuming was dragged here by Athena, and Liliana had just become Wuming's knight. It was normal that she didn't know the truth. After Erika told her about Alice's spirit vision prophecy, Liliana also understood the seriousness of the matter. I see, the last king of the strongest steel is in Japan. Since my lord wants to go, then as my lord's knight, Liliana Kranikar will definitely follow. Me too, Erika Brantley swears to follow you to the death, Erika said defiantly. You two are the wielder of the twin swords, Lion's Heart and Silver Master Craftsman. Can't you two get along well? Wuming complained. The weapons used by the two were the swords of a former Grand Knight. They were originally a pair of magic swords, but because of the death of the Grand Knight, the magic swords were separated. After tossing and turning, they fell into the hands of the Black Cross and the Black Cross, and were then handed over to their respective prodigies. I love Lily very much, Wuming, Erika said with a sly look. Who would believe you, you vixen? Liliana looked angry. Obviously, Erika had tricked Liliana more than once. Erika stopped talking back to Liliana and looked at Wuming. Then, I'll contact the plane to Japan. Liliana also got up and said, I'll go prepare dinner tonight. Then, the two girls left the room. At this moment, Wuming was thinking. Where did Athena go? Chapter 186. Wuming remembered Athena, who started the whole thing. If it weren't for Athena, Wuming wouldn't have come to Naples. It wasn't Athena's fault. Ever since Wuming learned about his identity as the god of disobedience, Wuming had a special fondness for Dragonsnake and Steel. Fortunately, Wuming could still control himself. The problem was that Athena was gone. It was like the banquet was over, and the host left first. I always feel like you're thinking about something bad. Suddenly, Athena's voice sounded behind Wuming. Wuming turned his head, and the first thing he saw was the child's body. Athena, where have you been? Wuming touched Athena's head. Then, Wuming smelled blood on Athena's body. What happened? Did someone hurt you? Wuming frowned and asked Athena with concern. Oh, you're really bold, Villo. Do you think you can touch the goddess like this just because you're a Dragonsnake incarnation? Athena narrowed her eyes and looked at Wuming with a puzzled look. In short, let's heal first. Saying this, Wuming squatted down and activated his magician avatar. With the power of my words, remove all pain. Wuming's body began to glow. Then, Wuming approached Athena. I'll heal you now, Just when Wuming was about to touch Athena's forehead with his forehead, Athena suddenly stepped forward and kissed Wuming. Wuming, who didn't expect Athena to kiss him, was a little stunned and stood there in a daze. After a brief kiss, Athena let go of Wuming's lips. "Why didn't you heal me?" Athena looked at Wuming with her big obsidian eyes. At this time, Wuming reacted. I forgot." Wuming smiled awkwardly. "Then, that was your reward for defeating Perseus. Let's do it again. This time, it's healing." After that, Athena kissed Wuming again without giving him time to react. Wuming, who was already prepared, activated his magician incarnation's healing ability. Through the kiss, Athena's body began to glow. After healing Athena, when Wuming wanted to separate, Athena hugged Wuming's head. Wuming was not a pretentious person, since Athena didn't want to let go, then he'll be happy with it. As the saying goes, life is like that, if you can't resist it, then enjoy it. After a French kiss, Athena separated from Wuming. Athena. And an Athena separated had a crystal's blood. Athena sucked hard, and the liquid was sucked into Athena's mouth. "This is an extra reward," Athena said calmly. "The goddess's reward is really rich." Wuming smiled. Later, Wuming sat on the bed with Athena in his arms. "Your injuries were caused by Salvatore, right?" Wuming asked. When Wuming treated Athena, Callis detected the residual magic power from the wound. It was Salvatore's magic power. "Well, when I was watching the battle, I found another god slayer, so I went to stop him," Athena explained the process to Wuming. After Salvatore was blown away by the magic power generated by Hera's stone pillar, he came to Sardinia. With the idea that he could not miss the battle, Salvatore hurried back to Naples. Originally, when Salvatore noticed that Wuming was fighting with Perseus, he wanted to watch the battle, but Athena came. After knowing that the other party was goddess Athena, Salvatore's fighting spirit was ignited again. So, the two fought. As a result, Salvatore, who broke out with fighting spirit, used his full strength. Athena, who still had an incomplete divinity, didn't want to fight with Salvatore. She just wanted to stall him, so she was slashed by Salvatore. Although Athena had slightly healed herself, the compatibility between Salvatore's silver arm the Ripper and Athena was quite bad. Therefore, for the current Athena, the wound caused by Salvatore's slash could not be completely healed. "It's just a minor injury. It doesn't matter." Athena was quite calm. Then, Athena's nose twitched. "You met the god ancestor, right?" The god ancestor was the form of the Mother Earth after her fall. After the Mother Earth fell into the god ancestor, she lost most of her authority as a god and became able to combine with humans to give birth to offspring. For example, Wanli Guyoli, the witch that Wuming saved when he defeated Marquis Warban. A witch like her who had the rare talent of spirit vision, was the descendant of the god ancestor and human. Wuming's newly recruited knight, Liliana Kranikar, also had the spirit vision ability. She was a witch and also the descendant of the god ancestor and human in ancient times. For example, the spirit vision ability of Wanli Guyoli and Liliana was like an atavism. They had special abilities such as seeing through divinity, analyzing God's name, and temporarily foreseeing the future. Alice's spirit vision ability, which could foresee the future for a long time, could be said to be quite powerful. Although this ability was very powerful, more powerful than that of Wanli Guyoli and Liliana, there were also drawbacks. That was a significant decrease in physical fitness. The reason why Liliana could become a knight and fight on the battlefield was that her spirit vision ability was quite weak. Such a weak spirit vision ability gave her a strong physical fitness. For example, Wanli Guyoli's spirit vision could be said to be on the high side. Her physical fitness was inclined to the virtual side. On the other hand, Alice's body was directly affected. Not only was her body sickly weak, but she also couldn't go out for long periods of time. Even standing for a little longer would cause slight damage to Alice's body. She could only walk outside in the form of a ghost. This was the drawback. But compared to the drawbacks, its advantages were coveted by countless magicians. The descendants of the god ancestor like Guinevere had a chance of producing such a talent. You mean Guinevere, right? You know my identity. It's not strange for me to meet Guinevere. Hearing Wu Ming's words, Athena's snake-like eyes flashed with a trace of seriousness. You may not know, but Guinevere, who was able to degenerate into a god ancestor, had a long-cherished wish that couldn't be realized even after several reincarnations. Moreover, you, who have become a god slayer, are completely opposed to the long-cherished wish of the god ancestor. Looking at Athena's obsidian eyes, Wu Ming smiled. So what? So what if it's fate? Didn't we, the god of disobedience, come here to fight against fate? Wu Ming said confidently. Although he was not the god of disobedience in the true sense, he was. I have underestimated you, Vilo Silenst. Thinking about it, only heroes like you can say such words. Athena said as she broke free from Wu Ming's embrace. Since you have said so, I will not stop you. I look forward to your new story in Japan. Until we meet again, my compatriot. With that, Athena turned into a black shadow and disappeared into the night. Chapter 187. The next day, Wu Ming boarded the plane that Erica had arranged for him to fly to Japan. In the first-class cabin, Wu Ming sat on the sofa. Across the table, Erica and Liliana sat across from Wu Ming. I have to say, it's a blessing to have Erica here, Wu Ming said comfortably as he looked at the scenery outside the window. Wu Ming said. Although I don't want to admit it, Erica is still the best in this situation, Liliana said with a slightly rosy face. Although I feel that you're saying the same thing about me, I, Erica Brantery, will accept your compliments. Erica had a proud expression. I hate it when you're like this. You're like a vixen who stole meat. Liliana looked at Erica with resentment. Please call this the pride of a proud lioness. Seeing the two of them at each other's throats again, Wu Ming smiled. Wu Ming could not help but recall what Karen and Yali Anna had said. You two have a good relationship, Wu Ming said. Who has a good relationship with her? Even the king can't judge his own knight as he wishes, Liliana retorted with a slightly red face. What are you talking about, Lily? We're very close friends. Erica leaned toward Liliana with a joyful expression. You, you, don't come over. You rascal. Erica became even more excited and instantly hugged Liliana. Let's be intimate, Lily, wah. Just as Erica and Liliana were fooling around, Wu Ming sensed that something was amiss and frowned. When Erica saw this, she gave up on fooling around with Liliana and looked at the frowning Wu Ming. What's wrong, Wu Ming? Did something happen? Wu Ming stood up and opened the door to the cabin. Erica and Liliana immediately followed him. After exiting, the two of them saw Wu Ming using his holy aura. Its effect was to make everyone on the plane fall into a deep sleep. Then, Wu Ming took off the golden dragon horn on his head and gave it to Erica. I've temporarily controlled the entire plane with my magic. Go to the captain's room immediately. She's my subordinate god. Kalis will tell you how to control the plane. After controlling the plane, fly according to the route provided by Kalis. Miss Erica, Miss Liliana, nice to meet you. As a versatile magic accessory, Kalis' database contained all the methods to use modern machinery. This was something that Kalis herself had requested, and it seemed that Kalis was more interested in these things. Nice to meet you, Liliana replied politely. Erica nodded and looked at Wu Ming. Is there a new god of disobedience? Well, and it's the god of steel. It seems that I triggered it, Wu Ming said carefully. It was just like the heroic spirit summoning in the M-Moon world, which required a holy relic to summon a specific heroic spirit. The same was true for the appearance of the god of disobedience in this world. Wu Ming's divinity as draconic snake attracted the god of steel. It seems that I have to cast some concealment magic on myself in the future. Otherwise, it would be too conspicuous for a god of disobedience to appear in a place. Wuming, Sama, you have to be careful. The god of steel has a restraining effect on you. You must not be careless. Liliana looked at Wuming seriously. I know. Although I'm the god of disobedience, I'm not belligerent. If I can't win, I'll still run. After that, Wuming, who walked to the cabin door, opened it, and flew out of the cabin. Let's hurry to the captain's room. Liliana nodded, and then the two of them went to the captain's room. Outside the plane, the whole plane was stuck in time, and Wuming used magic to control it to float in the sky. Compared to being a magician, Wuming preferred to be a fighter. That was why Wuming had been using all sorts of methods to fly, including magic and items. However, people will also improve. Wuming once tried to fly with magic wrapped around his whole body. Although it was a bit awkward, it was still acceptable. Now, Wuming was flying in that way. After noticing that the plane, which had lost control, regained power, Wuming removed the outer layer of magic that made the plane stagnate, and the plane began to fly again. After the plane was almost gone, Wuming turned his head and looked somewhere in the clouds. I'm the strongest, to catch all the victors. Humans and demons, all enemies, to defeat all hostile people. So, I'll break all the enemies in front of me. After using the magic-activated spirit of speech, Wuming's eyes were full of fighting spirit. It's time to come out. Don't let me think that you're afraid of me, unknown god of steel, Wuming provoked. And just as expected, the god of steel spoke at once at those words. You really dare to say that, a mere dragon snake, see if I don't pull out your tendons. A rather delicate voice was heard. As the voice finished speaking, a pillar of fire flew out from the clouds and shot toward Wuming. I will deny the sky, deny the earth, the storm destroys everything, the shower covers everything, I will make everything in the world bow down to me with this supreme divine power. As the spirit of speech chanted, on the stone plate in Wuming's heart, the long needle pointed to the direction of 4:00, and the stone plate that was engraved with a storm lit up. Wuming raised his hand, and a strong storm burst out from Wuming's hand. With the supply of powerful magic from Wuming, the pillar of fire that was heading toward Wuming was blown away. The storm that blew away the pillar of fire rushed toward the clouds. Whoosh! The sky was like a picture that was cut open, and the huge clouds were split into two. A fiery red figure flew above the clouds. This guy, your ability to control the wind is the strongest I've ever seen. Wuming looked at the figure. Red silk, a golden diamond ring, and a flaming undying wheel. He was dressed in red and had 2 pigtails on his head. He held a fire-tipped spear in his hand, and he was as small as a child. Seeing this scene, Wuming narrowed his eyes. Look at your outfit, your real name must be Neza. Hey, it's all my master's fault for giving me so many treasures, it's too easy to recognize me. Neza smiled innocently like a child and touched his head embarrassedly. It couldn't be helped, Neza had too many iconic items. Leaving aside the red armillary sash and the universe ring, there were not many gods who had the wind-fire wheels under his feet. Let's not talk too much. It's not easy to come out, and we even met a foreign dragon snake, let's hurry up and fight. As he spoke, Neza rushed toward Wuming with the fire-tipped spear in his hand. After defeating Perseus, Wuming faced the god of steel again. Chapter 188. Wuming immediately took out the meteor silver and faced Neza, who was rushing over. The storm condensed on the blade of the meteor silver. With Wuming's swing, the sword of the storm was swung out heavily. Dong! Neza was sent flying by the pressure of the storm. Ha ha ha, fun, really fun. Although Neza was sent flying, he didn't suffer much damage. Instead, he laughed happily. Wuming secretly began to think about Neza's background. Neza was an ancient mythical figure in China, the guardian of Taoism. Neza's religion flourished in Taoism and folk beliefs. In Taoism, his titles were Marshal of the Middle Altar, Grand Tutor of Heaven, Illustrious General, and great god of the three altars. Although he was reincarnated as a human as Ling Zhuzi, there was a legend that he killed the son of the Dragon King of the East Sea, abandoned his body, and rebuilt it with a lotus. Rebuilding his body and killing the son of the dragon were undoubtedly in line with the god of steel's metaphor of the steel smelting process and killing snakes and dragons. Moreover, he had a lot of treasures that could deal with many kinds of battles. What a troublesome god, Wuming thought. Let's make a deal. How about you return to the mythical realm yourself? I don't want to. It's not easy to come out. I have to have some fun. Neza smiled sweetly at Wuming. Dragon snake, take this. After saying that, Neza took off the golden steel ring on his body and threw it at Wuming. Feeling the murderous intent from the golden steel ring, Wuming held the sword with both hands. The storm on the meteor silver sword instantly weakened, and the meteor silver became faintly transparent. Wuming attached the pressure comparable to a top-level storm to the meteor silver sword. While slightly refracting light, the meteor silver also became an extremely sharp high-pressure saw. BZZT. The golden steel ring and the meteor silver collided, and an unusually violent noise was made. I am a conqueror who can defeat 1,000 with 100, 10,000 with 1,000, and 10,000 with 10,000. Now, for me, who is standing on the side of justice, please shine brightly and bestow upon me the divine power of lightning. Once again, the short needle on the stone plate in Wuming's heart slid and pointed at 9 o'clock. That was a god standing under the raging thunder. The meteor silver produced a trace of electricity. In an instant, the electricity violently flowed out from the meteor silver and scattered to the surroundings. I am the one who will crush all enemies and enmity between humans and demons. Following the chanting of the enhanced spirit language, the lightning instantly condensed and attached to the meteor silver. Wind blowing, iron striking, fire burning, lightning striking, and water soaking. Under these conditions, steel can become stronger. Cracks appeared on the universe ring. However, excessive exercise will break the steel. Kaka, bang. This universe ring, which had the property of killing snakes and slaying dragons, was shattered by the meteor's sacred sword under the support of Wuming's storm and thunder incarnations. The universe ring was the most commonly used treasure of Neza. Seeing that his treasure was destroyed, Neza was furious. Although Neza existed as the guardian of Taoism, he also had a violent and unyielding character. In the myths, Neza was brave and fierce, eccentric, and loved to fight and make trouble. He was very aggressive and didn't care about life and death. How dare you damage my treasure? Today, I will pull out your tendons and make a belt. Under these conditions, Neza directly showed 3 heads and 8 arms. This was the 8-armed, 3-headed Dharmakaya. Many people only knew about the 3-headed, 6-armed Neza, but not the 3-headed, 8-armed Neza. 6 arms referred to the 6 hands holding the demon-slaying sword, the demon-slaying knife, the demon-binding rope, the demon-subduing pestle, the embroidered ball, and the fire wheel. The 8-armed Dharmakaya had 4 hands holding the universe ring, the red armillary sash, the golden brick, and the 9 dragons' heavenly fire shield. The remaining 4 hands held a fire-tipped spear, and the other 2 hands held the yin-yang sword. After using the 8-armed, 3-headed Dharmakaya, Neza had a green face and fangs. His hair was like cinnabar, and he looked very fierce. Whether it was the 6-armed, 3-headed Dharmakaya, or the 8-armed, 3-headed Dharmakaya, they were extremely ugly and could not be restored to their original state. In the myths, Neza could freely change between the 8-armed, 3-headed Dharmakaya and an ordinary body because of the art of concealment taught by his master, Tai Jinren. Dragon Snake's old enemy, take this. Neza shouted in a hoarse voice. Then, he rushed toward Wuming with 7 weapons in his hands. The universe ring was replaced by the demon-slaying sword. Good timing. Wuming also shouted. Using the storm to increase his speed and the thunder god to increase his reflexes, he used the meteor silver to fight against Neza's 7 weapons. Neza was indeed the guardian of Taoism. With the 7 weapons, he was evenly matched with Wuming. I didn't expect a foreign dragon to have such martial arts skills. This is awesome. Neza, who was in the form of a green-faced demon, had gradually forgotten about the destruction of the universe ring. He was immersed in the joy of fighting Wyrm. Wyrm dodged the golden brick that Neza threw at him and stopped at the side. The fight is over. Now is the time for the real killer move. If you want to run, now is the time. Wyrm held the sword with both hands, the tip of the sword pointed upward. Interesting, very interesting. Let me see the prowess of a dragon from a foreign country. Ha ha ha. Neza shouted. With his green face and fangs, the 8 weapons in his hands and feet exploded with powerful magic power. He rushed toward Wyrm with Neza. Silver, meteor silver. The extreme meteor with the storm and thunder collided with the 8 fiery lights. The heat evaporated and affected the surrounding weather. Dark clouds gathered in an instant. Wind howled, rain fell, and lightning flashed. When the meteor silver's light disappeared, Wyrm and Neza were already very close to each other. In the end, it was the impact of Neza's 8 weapons that broke through Wyrm's meteor silver. But, clatter, the sound of chains sliding could be heard. Damn it! It's a weapon against gods. Neza struggled with his green face and fangs. Wyrm's slightly battered figure floated in front of Neza. He reached out a hand, and there was a golden ripple in front of his hand. The golden chains wrapped around Wyrm's hand entered the golden ripple in front of him. A few ripples appeared around Neza, and a few heavenly chains extended from them. They bound Neza's body and limbs, restraining him. Wyrm had expected that the meteor silver would not work on Neza. It was just an illusion on the surface. Wyrm had already asked Enkidu to be prepared. When Neza broke through the meteor silver's light, the chains would immediately bind him. Even if it's a weapon against gods, my fire-tipped spear can break it. Neza said as he prepared to attack with his fire-tipped spear. At this moment, Wyrm moved. He moved his hand with the heavenly chains, and a few more ripples appeared. A few golden heavenly chains immediately flew out and bound Neza's weapons, including the wind fire wheels, and the other 8 divine weapons. You're a general now, aren't you, Neza? Wyrm said with a smile. Damn it! Neza said viciously. Then, he deactivated his 8-armed, 3-headed avatar. Since I've lost, you can do whatever you want to me. Although Neza was bold and daring since he was born, he was also a man who dared to do what he wanted. He dared to love and hate, and he was soft on the outside but tough on the inside. To him, a loss was a loss. He had no intention of quibbling about it. If you can return to the myth by yourself, I won't have to do anything, Wyrm said tiredly. Neza was puzzled. You're really strange. Although I don't know what you are, I can still sense that you're a god slayer. Won't you be able to increase your power if you kill me? This was because Wyrm did not have high aspirations for authority. In his opinion, having enough power was enough. Too much power would only lead to drawbacks. It's none of your business. Do you know the myth or not? Wyrm stared at Neza fiercely. Neza rolled his eyes as if he had thought of something. Then, he said firmly. I refuse. Wyrm shook his head regretfully. Then, goodbye, Neza. Pucci. Chapter 189. Mount Lu, China. Wyrm was sitting in a nunnery filled with ancient Huaxia style. This nunnery was not big. It was plain, but it looked very simple. A teacup was placed in front of Wyrm. It was filled with fragrant tea. Even though Wyrm had never tasted it before, he could tell that the tea was expensive. A young man stood beside Wyrm. His name was Lu Yinghua, right? Your master hasn't come out yet? Wyrm asked the handsome young man. I'm sorry, Lord Wyrm. My master is very particular about etiquette. Plus, my master is an unmarried woman. She will not come out to meet guests before she is dressed. The young man who Wyrm called Lu Yinghua was very kind. He answered Wu Ming's questions in a gentle voice. Fine, I'll wait a little longer. Wu Ming shook his head helplessly. He picked up the cup of tea in front of him and tasted it again. By the way, can't you sit up and talk? Wu Ming looked at Lu Yinghua strangely. Wu Ming said that because Lu Yinghua was kneeling on the ground in a kneeling posture. No, Lord Wu Ming, you are on the same level as my master. Lu Yinghua will not dare to be presumptuous in front of you. Otherwise, my master will punish me for insulting the king. Do as you wish. Wu Ming gave up. Why did Wu Ming come to Mount Lu in China? It had to be related to the battle between Wu Ming and Neza. Wu Ming's dragon snake attribute attracted the god of disobedience, Neza. At that time, the plane that Wu Ming was on happened to be in China. Wu Ming and Neza fought in China, so it must have attracted the attention of the Chinese arcane masters. When Arcane Master Fang noticed the appearance of a disobedient god, he immediately reported it to the Huaxia god slayer, Wuxia King Luo Hao. According to Wu Ming's understanding, China's Wuxia King, Luo Hao, was one of the only 7 god slayers in the world. He was the leader of China's Wulin Alliance, the leader of China's 5 Hells sect, Jiangnan's Wuxia King, and the pinnacle of martial arts. According to the records, it had been more than 200 years since he killed a god. Marquis Warban and Hierarch Luo Hao were the earliest godslayers and were mortal enemies. Before he killed the god, he was a martial arts genius. He had mastered a large number of martial arts and was good at Qinggong. After becoming a god slayer, he created his own ultimate skill, the 12 Flying Phoenix Divine Palms. 30% of the Chinese Fangxian masters obeyed Luo Hao. However, Wu Ming did not know what Luo Hao looked like. Luo Hao had a rule that anyone who saw his appearance had to dig out their own eyes, anyone who heard his voice had to destroy their own ears. As expected of a demon who could be compared to Marquis Warban. Wu Ming thought to himself. Although Wu Ming didn't reject such a person, Wu Ming really didn't want to have any dealings with such a person for the time being. Wu Ming really didn't want to have anything to do with such a person. Alright, it was actually Wu Ming who was getting impatient. Originally, after Wu Ming killed Neza, Luo Hao's direct disciple, the handsome young man, Lu Yinghua, who was lying on the ground, came to Wu Ming. Wu Ming still remembered Lu Yinghua's speech at that time. The disobedient king of heaven and earth will live as long as the heavens and earth and will never be destroyed. Your might is infinite, your wisdom and mercy will shine across the world. Stop right there, Wu Ming immediately interrupted him. Then, after a self-introduction, Lu Yinghua brought Wu Ming to Mount Lu. Wu Ming did not want to come, but Lu Yinghua said, "My master wants to see you." Wu Ming followed Lu Yinghua here with the thought that since he was causing trouble in someone else's territory, he should at least meet the master. When is that cult master Luo Hao going to come? Just as Wu Ming was complaining in his heart, Lu Yinghua suddenly shouted somewhere in front of him. The wise and brave sacred cult master's famous name will live as long as the heavens and earth and will never be destroyed. Your might is infinite, your wisdom and mercy will shine across the world. Disciple Lu Yinghua wishes master a long life. Just as he finished speaking, a beautiful girl of about 17 or 18 years old appeared in front of Lu Yinghua. She had a beautiful face and beautiful black hair that was as black as silk. It was braided into 3 braids. The girl was wearing a white Han Chinese dress that was similar to a Qi-style uniform. She put on a green blouse with long sleeves and a long skirt, and an elegant lower garment that looked like a long skirt. Because it was a right-style dress, it looked a little like a kimono. It was hard to imagine that cult master Luo Hao, who had lived for over 200 years, would actually be such a beautiful and tender girl. He's just like a master. Wu Ming thought of Skaha. The moment she came, the girl opened her mouth. Even though she had lived for over 200 years, Luo Hao's voice was still gentle and pleasant to the ears like a 16-year-old girl. I don't remember letting you entertain the king of disobedience who is also a king. However, the girl's next action made Wu Ming's eyes drop. Luo Hao seemed to have seen the slight impatience on Wu Ming's face and thought that her disciple had not taken good care of him. She then sent a palm strike at Lu Yinghua. PFFF. Lu Yinghua screamed miserably as he was sent flying by Luo Hao. Lu Yinghua flew backward and spat out a mouthful of blood. He then collapsed on the ground and lost consciousness. Go to the back of the mountain and reflect on your mistakes for 7 days, Luo Hao said indifferently. The corpse like Lu Yinghua suddenly got up and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He then knelt on one knee and saluted Luo Hao. Thank you, master. He then ran away. Wu Ming raised his eyebrows and then stretched out his hands to massage his temples. As expected of an older generation god slayer. Just like what the picture said, she's an extremely strange person, just like Marquis Woban. Wu Ming's heart was about to break down. After all, this beautiful and quiet girl was actually a queen who killed without batting an eyelid. This contrast made Wu Ming unable to react. King of disobedience from a foreign country, I welcome you to Huaxia. Luo Hao smiled. I've heard of your deeds. As a god of disobedience, you became a god slayer. Although this is the first time this has happened, it's not unacceptable. I just checked the information sent by the arcane masters. You killed 2 gods of disobedience in Italy's Sardinia and defeated the King of Swords. You defeated my old enemy, Woban, in England. Then you killed Perseus in Naples. And just now, you killed our mythical Neza. From your performance, I can see that you've chosen to protect humans instead of disobeying them. This qualifies you to be a king. But before Wu Ming could say anything, Luo Hao's tone changed. You attracted a god slayer in Huaxia and killed him. This is a little too disrespectful of me. Wu Ming looked at Luo Hao strangely. Then, Wu Ming spoke. Then, do you want to fight? Boom, it was a sunny day, but suddenly there was a muffled thunder outside. Well, it was Wu Ming's thunder god incarnation. Then let me experience the skills of the king of disobedience from a foreign country. At this moment, Wu Ming only had one thought. Sure enough, god slayers were a bunch of violent maniacs. Chapter 190. In the wilderness, Wu Ming and Luo Hao stood opposite each other. This was Wu Ming's relic, the staff of Anziergen, the 8th level of Nasarik's underground tomb, the wilderness. Previously, Wu Ming had said that he had an inherent enchantment and that he wanted to fight inside. At that time, Luo Hao had even mocked Wu Ming for being considerate of the living beings and plants of Mount Lu. Furthermore, it was a taboo for a soldier to go deep into enemy territory alone. Luo Hao naturally wouldn't make such a mistake. However, Wu Ming used one sentence to change Luo Hao's mind. If you're afraid, then forget it. I'm the leader of the sect of 5 purgatories, the king of martial arts in Jiangnan. How could I be afraid of you? With this thought in mind, Luo Hao accepted Wu Ming's suggestion and came to the wilderness of the 8th level of Nasarik. Looking at the slim and graceful Luo Hao standing not far away, Wu Ming shook his head with a smile. As expected, the godslayers were all simple-minded people. Whether it was Salvatore, Vauban, or Luo Hao, which one of them was not particularly easy to deal with in some way. King of disobedience, are you laughing at me? Seeing Wu Ming smile, Luo Hao thought that Wu Ming was laughing at her because of her hesitation before entering Wu Ming's inherent enchantment. Wu Ming shook his head. How could that be? Lord Hierarch, I was just thinking that you're also a cute guy. However, this angered Luo Hao once again. You have humiliated me again and again. Even if we are both kings, you cannot blame me for being so presumptuous. Finished speaking, Luo Hao started chanting. War in the south of the city, death in the north of the country, death in the wild does not bury the crow to eat. For my sake, I call the crow, and for the guest hero. This was the power that Luo Hao had seized after killing the 2 Buddhist benevolent kings of Aqua, the secret Buddha king and the Narayan Jianjun king. As Luo Hao chanted, golden particles appeared around her. Luo Hao called this power, Vajra divine art, and the sage parliament called it, the power. The golden particles attached to Luo Hao's body. In an instant, Luo Hao stomped on the ground, and the ground cracked like a spider web. Luo Hao then rushed towards Wu Ming. Just in time. Wu Ming also used his speech spirit when he saw this. I am the strongest, and I hold all victory in my hands. Be it human or demon, I am a person who can defeat all enemies, and I will defeat any enemy that stands in my way. Giants with unparalleled godly power, please help me. As the words were spoken, the long needle on the stone plate in Wu Ming's heart pointed to 2 o'clock, and the giant's stone carving lit up. Wu Ming's entire body emitted a golden light. Similarly, he also shot towards Luo Hao, who was charging over. Then, the two of them clashed, one with a fist and the other with a palm. Boom! Their fists collided, and the resulting shockwave shattered the ground around them. Just like the first time, Miko-sama and Luo Hao started attacking each other with their fists and palms, releasing a large amount of mana. Chi! Wu Ming retreated, his legs leaving 2 scratches on the ground, leaving an ear-piercing sound. Wu Ming moved the place that was attacked by Luo Hao and grinned. As expected of the king of Wuxia, Luo Hao, your punches and kicks are indeed above mine. That's right, it was obvious that Wu Ming was at a disadvantage in this first round of confrontation. Because Luo Hao had 1-inch punch, the huge palm force was like a picture. Wu Ming's defense was nothing, and the damage was directly transmitted to Wu Ming's internal organs. Although Wu Ming was not seriously injured, the damage was not small. Don't belittle yourself. What I just used is my exclusive 12 Flying Phoenix Divine Palm. You can still move back and forth freely under my attack, your martial arts is enough to see. Although Luo Hao had the upper hand, she also suffered some losses. Wu Ming's fists, which contained the strength of a giant, knocked her down a few times, but Luo Hao's great strength Vajra divine art not only increased her strength, but also increased her defense. Therefore, although the giant incarnation with the supreme divine power attacked Luo Hao, because of the strong Vajra divine art's defense, Luo Hao only suffered a light injury compared to Wu Ming. Wu Ming smiled arrogantly. Then, let's start the second round. After that, Wu Ming disappeared. Luo Hao's eyes suddenly shrank, and she quickly turned around and attacked somewhere. Boom! Luo Hao was hit hard by Wu Ming. Wu Ming, who lifted his lightning speed, stood in the place where Luo Hao stood before. Wu Ming just used the power of the phoenix. The reason why he didn't chant the spell was because of the short pointer on the stone plate in Wu Ming's heart. Now, Wu Ming understood why he had 2 pointers. The long and short pointers didn't just mean that Wu Ming could use the power of 2 avatars at the same time, these 2 pointers also had other uses. Wu Ming found that as long as the short pointer pointed to the authority, Wu Ming could instantly use it without chanting any spell. But the instant was just like the literal meaning of the picture, only a few short seconds. Just now, on Wu Ming's heart stone plate, the short pointer pointed to the phoenix stone plate. In an instant, the short pointer emitted a golden light, and the phoenix stone plate instantly became super bright. Then, Wu Ming entered the state of lightning speed. Now, the stone short pointer had become red, as if the picture was overloaded. But after a few seconds, the short pointer returned to its original stone color. It can be said that the short pointer can make the avatar instantly burst. Although this power can only be used for a few seconds, in a fight between experts, the outcome can be decided in a breath. And the cooldown time is only a few seconds. To put it simply, the cooldown time of this skill is super short. Before becoming Wu Ming's noble phantasm, there were all kinds of restrictions. Before using it, various conditions must be unlocked. But now, after becoming Wu Ming's noble phantasms, 12 avatars, not only did it have no restrictions, it could be used at will, and its power could be compared to any independent authority. Wu Ming's 12 avatars required chanting, which was a drawback. But with the short pointer's instantaneous burst ability, and the cooldown time was only a few seconds, it could be said that the 12 avatars was already a near-perfect authority. Luo Hao gently removed the force and gracefully landed on the ground. Wiping the blood from the corner of her mouth, Luo Hao smiled. Attacking with speed when I'm at a disadvantage is a wise choice. Ming did not belittle himself just because he attacked Luo Hao. The moment before he attacked Luo Hao captured his high-speed movement. It can be said that basically, as long as one is a warrior, they can capture high-speed movements, especially people who are fighting on the battlefield. For example, Ming saw Lancelot before. As a military god, Lancelot can naturally capture high-speed moving objects. Neza should also be able to, but that is before he enters the state of 8-armed, 3-headed Dharmakaya. After all, after entering the state of 8-armed, 3-headed Dharmakaya, Neza becomes like a berserker. After thinking for a while, Ming took out a white holy spear from the golden ripples. He was ready to use the martial arts obtained from another real, god slayer, to compete with Luo Hao. Leader, please don't blame me for being shameless. After all, I'm good at weapons. Of course I won't blame you. Fists and feet have no eyes. On the battlefield, there is only the means to kill the enemy. There is no such thing as being shameless. After that, Luo Hao's body emitted a golden light, and a golden transparent material similar to gloves wrapped Luo Hao's hands. This was the flexible performance of the Mighty King Kong Divine Art. If the previous Mighty King Kong Divine Art was used as a defense, now it was used as a weapon. The golden particles turned into gloves, which was better suited for hand-to-hand combat. Coming! Ming shouted and rushed toward Luo Hao with his spear. Chapter 191. Ming held Yggdrasil in his hand and Luo Hao, who was wearing a gauntlet. Luo Hao continuously used 12 Flying Phoenix Divine Palm, which was extremely powerful. Ming used the god-killing spear he learned from Skaha, and its power was not weaker than Luo Hao's. The two of them didn't care about their magical power consumption, and the magical power they released was comparable to the magic release skill. Coupled with the fact that both of them were god-slayers, Ming and Luo Hao could be said to have lost their minds. No, that was not accurate, it should be said that they lost their cool. When the two of them almost calmed down, the two of them found that Ming's barrier was full of holes. As for Ming and Luo Hao, it could be said that they were being honest with each other. Their clothes were almost completely tattered. Ming and Luo Hao both blushed. Luo Hao was a traditional Chinese woman, she quickly turned around to cover her delicate body. As her figure flickered, a new Han Chinese dress was put on Luo Hao's body. Ming also took out a set of clothes from the golden ripple and put it on. Luo Hao turned around, her slightly red cheeks, and the fluttering silk made Luo Hao look like a fairy, which made Ming look at her. I didn't expect your spear technique to be so powerful. Judging from your moves, you must have learned from a famous master. Luo Hao said to cover up her embarrassment. Thank you for the compliment, sect leader is indeed the king of Wuxia. Ming also followed Luo Hao's meaning, ignoring the embarrassment between the two of them just now. My master is Skaha, and I can use swords, spears, and halberds freely. My master asked her to teach me this set of spear technique, and now I have my own rhythm. Of course, learning couldn't just copy without making progress. The reason why the student surpassed the master was that the disciple understood deeper things from what the master taught. Speaking of Skaha, Luo Hao was interested. Could it be that queen of the demonic realm, Skaha, who has killed countless gods? Yes, but my master is best at spear, and I am best at sword. Ming put Yggdrasil back into the golden ripple and took out meteor silver from it. Luo Hao's eyes narrowed slightly. Could this be the other meteor sword, Silver, that could rival the legendary Excalibur? Yes. Later, seeing that Luo Hao seemed to know a lot about meteor silver, Ming asked Luo Hao. Sect leader, am I famous? Luo Hao looked at Ming and fell into silence. After a while, Rosen's looked, and looks, Luo looks, ants, looks. The reason why Ming asked this question was that he wanted to know what kind of myths were related to him in this world. For some reason, Ming didn't find any records about himself in the myths and legends of King Arthur. Even if there were, they were all minor details, and the content was not complete. The records about King Arthur and even the records about the Knight Vilo were vague. The only thing he found was the official history that was slightly more credible. Wu Ming and Luo Hao sat opposite each other. Looking at Luo Hao, who was pouring tea for him, Wu Ming was a little surprised. Looking at it now, Luo Hao looks like a beautiful and quiet girl. It's impossible to connect her with the fierce person who fought so fiercely with me in the 8th layer of the wilderness. For some reason, Luo Hao's attitude toward Wu Ming changed a little since they came out of the enchantment. Whether it was her tone, attitude, or behavior, it was much more intimate. Please. Luo Hao smiled and placed the teacup in front of Wu Ming. Wu Ming picked up the teacup and took a sip. Then, Wu Ming looked at Luo Hao and waited for her to explain the problem. Luo Hao also poured herself a cup of tea and began to tell the story. Ming, as the god of disobedience, became the god's slayer. Because of this, he gained the support of humans and was worshipped as a king. Although Wu Ming wasn't used to Luo Hao calling him Ming, he didn't say anything. Although Ming has always called himself Wu Ming, Ming's real name was revealed during the battle with Woban. Vilo their answered, King Arthur's strongest knight, King Arthur's mentor, and a good friend of the great magician Merlin. Wu Ming nodded in his heart. Luo Hao was right. No matter which sentence it was, in some sense, it was correct in this world. But Luo Hao looked at Wu Ming seriously. Wu Ming also looked at Luo Hao's pretty face. Although I don't know why, Ming's words and actions don't resemble ancient people at all. Instead, he's somewhat similar to the mortals of today. Luo Hao picked up the teacup again and took a sip. But without a doubt, Ming has attracted the attention of magicians from all over the world. Luo Hao put down the teacup and continued. Because King Arthur's story isn't true. Someone deliberately adapted it. Adapted it? Wu Ming was surprised. After all, this was a big deal. Yes, but I didn't know much about the details. Wu Ming couldn't help but feel a little regretful when Luo Hao said this. Wu Ming already understood why he was so famous. There was a law in this world. Ancient powerful beings were defined as gods by humans and were bound into myths by human curses. As for new myths made up by humans, they would give birth to new gods. Logically speaking, a god like the Vilo with a vague record of the myths shouldn't be able to be summoned. But Wu Ming, who used the Vilo as his real name, was summoned. Wu Ming had all the information related to the Vilo in the myths, such as weapons and skills. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that they were exactly the same. Many people also suspected that Wu Ming wasn't a Vilo, but another god with the title of a Vilo. Otherwise, why would he call himself Wu Ming and not a Vilo? In short, there was a lot of controversy regarding Wu Ming. As a result, all the information about Wu Ming, about the Vilo, had been spread around the world. Even sect leader Luo Hao, who didn't like gossip, knew about Wu Ming. Alright, although it was also because of the information gathering. I don't know the specific situation. In short, Ming is now an existence that everyone knows. After that, Luo Hao picked up the teacup again and began to taste it carefully. Looks like I'll have to ask Alice about this, Wu Ming thought. Thank you, sect leader. Wu Ming thanked Luo Hao. Luo Hao shook her head gently. Just call me Cui Lian. Luo Hao smiled again. Oh. Okay, Cui Lian. Wu Ming smiled awkwardly. Wu Ming now felt that this wuxia king Luo Hao, who was called a demon, wasn't that difficult to get along with. And it was just that the way Ming and Cui Lian were called was a bit awkward. By the way, I will be going to Japan in a few days. At that time, please don't hesitate to teach me. Since we're done talking, I won't send you off. I'll take my leave first. Luo Hao suddenly interrupted Wu Ming's thoughts. After that, Luo Hao used God's limbs and left. As expected, none of the God Slayers are normal. After leaving Lushan, Wu Ming boarded the plane to Japan. Sitting in the private room of the plane, Wu Ming still couldn't forget about Luo Hao. Of course, it didn't mean that Wu Ming fell in love with Luo Hao. She called me over and fought with me when I mentioned it. In the end, she said some strange things to herself. Sigh, Wuming supported his chin with his right hand and looked out the window in boredom. Luo Hao actually left Lushan. What is she doing in Japan? He shook his head again and stopped thinking about it. Speaking of which, why didn't Erica and the others call me? A shattered piece of a mobile phone lay quietly on Mount Lu. Chapter 192. At a certain airport in Japan, Wuming's plane landed. Wuming walked down from the plane. Finally, I'm in Japan, Wuming exclaimed. As soon as he got off the plane, a golden dragon horn ornament flew over using an invisibility spell. Wuming, who had a connection with it, could naturally sense the distance between him and his relic. The dragon horn flew to Wuming's head and settled down. Master. Although Kalas's voice was still cold, there was a hint of joy in it. Welcome back, Kalas, Wuming touched the dragon horn and greeted her happily. Yes, I'm back, Master. My king, are you okay? At this moment, Liliana ran over worriedly from somewhere. Her figure was like a swift and beautiful bird, extremely agile. It's okay, Lily. It's just a god of disobedience. I've sent it back to the myths. Wuming shook his head and said with a chuckle. Seeing this, Lily breathed a sigh of relief, then said speechlessly, only you would say that. Wuming shrugged his shoulders and rubbed his nose. He didn't say anything. So, Lily, you have to believe in our king. How can a mere god of disobedience be a match for my master, Erica Brantery? Erica's proud voice reached Wuming and Liliana's ears. Wuming turned his head and looked. It was still golden hair like the sun, like a beautiful lioness. Erica walked over gracefully. Of course I believe in the king. Even if I do, I can't help but worry. You, on the other hand, have been calm since you got off the plane. Don't you know how to worry for our master? Liliana immediately retorted. Ah, I knew His Majesty would be fine. This is the tacit understanding between His Majesty and me, Lily. Erica pretended to be shy. You vixen. Liliana's face was red, not knowing whether it was anger or embarrassment. Please call me the beautiful lioness, Erica provoked. Alright, Erica, stop bullying Lily. Wuming chuckled. Liliana was undoubtedly qualified as a knight, but her heart was quite pure. It could be said that she was the complete opposite of Erica. Both of them. Aya, the two prodigies are really favored by the king. However, I would like to ask the king to leave first. It is not polite to talk with the king here. A rather leisurely voice sounded. Wuming looked at the speaker. It was an ordinary-looking man in a suit and glasses. Although he was dressed in a suit, the man always exuded a leisurely aura. However, Wuming had a feeling that this was an old fox. No, it should be said that every magician was a sly old fox. Other than those who were brought up by seniors like Liliana, including paladins like Paul Brantley and Princess Alice, all magicians were sly old foxes without exception. Because those who were not old foxes were no longer in this world. The truth was so cruel. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Kaneji Takuma, an agent of the official Japanese state organ, the Historical Compilation Committee. Nice to meet you, Lord King of Disobedience. Mr. Kanzui was one of the people who came to welcome the king after Lily and I came to Japan. I didn't hide anything. Instead, I told him about encountering the god of disobedience on the way and how the king went to hunt it. Erica flipped her hair and said leisurely. Wuming nodded. Erica was right. Instead of deceiving him, it was better to tell him the truth directly. It was not that she thought highly of Kaneji Takuma, but the news that Wuming killed the god of disobedience would definitely be known by the whole world. Besides, there was no need to deceive a Japanese magician. The History Editing Committee was the official Japanese magic organization that protected Wanraku Yori. Just call me Wuming. Then, I'll have to trouble Mr. Kaneji to lead the way. Wuming smiled. In fear and trepidation, Lord Wuming, please come with me. Although Kaneji Takuma was very respectful, he still looked casual. Kaneji Takuma led Wuming and the others into a car. Kaneji Takuma sat in the driver's seat, smiled apologetically, and then said, "Because we know that Lord Wuming doesn't like luxury, we only arranged for me in a small car. Please forgive us. I thought this was the Japanese magician's provocation to our lord, Mr. Kaneji." Erika sat in the passenger seat and smiled calmly. "How could that be? We have absolutely no intention of disrespecting the king. Please understand." Although he said so and his tone was full of apology, Kaneji Takuma still looked calm and composed. Perhaps this was the reason why the Japanese sent Kaneji Takuma to negotiate with him. Wuming thought so. But, he felt that the Japanese seemed to be confident that they could remain unscathed even after offending the god slayer. As expected, the last king is related to Japan, Wuming thought to himself. At this time, Kaneji Takuma spoke again. "We specially arranged a luxurious ancient English building for the king's arrival, and there will be new followers to serve the king later." New followers? Wuming raised his eyebrows. New followers? Erika and Liliana were also a little confused. However, Kaneji Takuma continued as if he didn't see it. "Because this is the first time the king, Miss Blountree, and Miss Kranakar came to Japan, we were afraid that the two of you wouldn't be able to take good care of the king, so the higher-up specially arranged new followers to serve the king." Liliana thought about it carefully and found that there was no problem. Erika glanced at Wuming. After Wuming nodded, Erika asked a question. "Then, what are the number, gender, and function of the new followers?" However, Kaneji Takuma smiled. "Don't worry, Miss Blountree, there are only 2 followers, and they are both women. One of them is someone the king knows." "Someone he knows?" Erika and Liliana couldn't help but look at Wuming. Erika and Liliana were curious about when Wuming, "Someone I know?" Wuming said with some surprise. "Could it be?" Wuming muttered as he thought of something. The car stopped in front of a luxurious ancient English mansion. "Please come in, I believe the new followers the king knows have arrived." Kaneji Takuma led Wuming and the other 2 into the mansion. A beautiful girl with chestnut-colored hair wearing a white top and green bottom which costume was cleaning the courtyard. "As expected, it's you, Wanli Guyoli." Wuming said as if he had expected it. "Huh?" Wanli Guyoli was shocked. Chapter 193. In the living room of the villa. Wuming sat on the sofa while Erika and Liliana stood beside Wuming. Even so, Wanli Guyoli still poured 3 cups of tea. Because Wanli Guyoli had met the king before, he could be considered a half-acquaintance. Moreover, he had a high-level talent ability, spirit vision, which could be of great help to the king. Therefore, Wanli Guyoli was one of Wuming's followers in Japan. After saying that, the other follower is already on the way, Wuming Ganshi left leisurely. This is spiritual tea picked from the land with abundant spiritual energy. Please enjoy. Wuming picked up the teacup and took a sip. His eyes lit up. It's really good. The taste is comparable to the spiritual tea that Suelian poured for me. Is that so? It's good that you like it. Wanli Guyoli breathed a sigh of relief, his little face flushed. Oh, did Lord Wuming communicate with the hierarch? They called so intimately. Was it before? I remember that the place where we met the god of disobedience was indeed China. Erika narrowed her eyes and looked at Wuming. My king, please have some self-respect. Although Liliana had only said a simple sentence, her slightly red cheeks proved that she was not calm in her heart. Ahem, the 2 of you don't have to stand. Quickly sit down and taste the tea that Yoli brewed for you. Wuming coughed and ordered. Ha! Wanli Guyoli was a little surprised to be called directly by his name. Seeing this, Wuming explained, Sorry, I like to call others by their names. If you feel offended, I can call you Wanli Gu. Honorable Demon King, please forgive the god of disobedience. If I offended you, please only punish me and don't affect the surroundings. Wanli Gu Yoli immediately sat down and apologized. Wu Ming was a little helpless. Did he have to be cruel because he was a god slayer? He was not like Woban Luohao. Don't worry, I won't punish you, nor will I do anything to the surroundings. Hurry up and get up. While speaking, Wu Ming used the short pointer to activate the magician avatar. The incarnation of the magician, who used to be a young man, had the ability of the young man incarnation to control humans. After Wu Ming finished speaking, an invisible force controlled Wanli Gu Yoli, causing him to uncontrollably stand up. Sigh. After contacting the incarnation, Wu Ming looked at Wanli Gu Yoli, who wanted to kneel down again, and took a sip of tea. If you still kneel, then I will continue to use my authority. This time, Wanli Guyu supported his body and did not kneel down. Seriously, Wu Ming, you're really rude, Erica said helplessly. Don't worry. The king waiting for me in front of you is the easiest to talk to among the 7 kings. There's no need to be reserved. After a moment of silence, Wanli Gu Yoli nodded his head skeptically. Hurry up and sit down and drink the tea. It will lose its flavor if it gets cold, Wu Ming urged and took another sip of tea. Then, he glanced at Wanli Gu Yoli. You too. Sit down and talk. Wu Ming had no choice but to order Wanli Gu Yoli to sit down. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Excuse me. After Erica and Liliana said goodbye, the two also sat down and tasted their tea. It's really the best. Is Wu Ming's taste too high? He actually said it's not bad. Erica took a sip and was also surprised. It's delicious. Thank you very much, Wanli Gu Yoli, Liliana thanked him solemnly. No, it's okay, Miss Kranikar, Wanli Gu Yoli, who was still blushing because Wu Ming called him by his name, quickly waved his hand and said. Please call me Liliana. There's no need to call me Kranikar, Liliana said seriously. Me too. Just call me Erica, Erica said gracefully. Okay. Okay, please take care of me. Miss Erica, Miss Liliana, please call me Yoli. Please. Wanli Gu Yoli bowed slightly. Of course, Yoli, Erica said with a smile. Okay, please take care of me, Miss Yoli. Just call me Wu Ming. Don't call me the king of disobedience. How? How can I do that? That's too rude. Then, under the gaze of King Wu Ming, Wanli Gu Yoli nodded. Then, Erica raised her doubts. Yoli, when you met Wu Ming just now, you looked shocked. Don't you know that the king you are going to meet is Wu Ming? This was also what Wu Ming and Liliana were puzzled about that. Mr. Gonzai told me that he needed me to serve the king who's coming to Japan, but he didn't tell me who it was, so. Wanli Gu Yoli said softly. At this moment, Wu Ming put down the teacup in his hand. Then, let me ask you. Are you willing to be my follower, Wanli Gu Yoli? When Wu Ming said this, the place instantly fell into an awkward silence. Erica and Liliana did not say anything. They understood Wu Ming's intention. Don't worry. If you're not willing, I can let you go back. I believe that Wu Ming Gonzai and the official history committee behind him won't disobey my orders. At this moment, Wu Ming's kingly aura as a god slayer was unconsciously released. Wanli Gu Yoli raised his head slightly and looked at the king before him. After a moment of thought, Wanli Gu Yoli spoke. I want to stay. Is that so? Wu Ming didn't say anything. Can I know why? Then, Wu Ming asked. After a brief thought, Wanli Gu Yoli explained. Because I have the responsibility to manage the king's daily life and watch over the king to prevent the king from doing anything that would damage the king's dignity. When he said this, Wanli Gu Yoli's face was serious. Wu Ming was a little helpless. You're actually afraid that I'll cause damage to Japan? Yes, the Devil King has the constitution of causing trouble. No matter which king it is, it's the same. Then, Wanli Gu Yoli stared at Wu Ming. I have to take this responsibility and watch over you. Wu Ming laughed involuntarily. You really dare to say that, Miss Miko? Wu Ming smiled. Ah. Wanli Gu Yoli realized that what he had just done was an offense to the king. His face was full of despair. Lord Devil King, please only punish me. Don't involve Japan. However, before Wanli Gu Yoli could finish speaking, Wu Ming interrupted him. There should be a limit to your stupid words, Wanli Gu Yoli. At this moment, Wu Ming's expression became extremely terrifying. This time, Wanli Gu Yoli's face was full of despair. Well, but you met me. If it were Marquis Wu Ming or Cult Master Luo Hao, you'd be dead by now. Wu Ming's expression instantly softened. You should know that not every king has a good temper like me. I'm doing this for your own good. Then, Wu Ming looked at Erica and Liliana, who had been silent all this time. Alright, let's call it a day. Erica and Liliana, remember to protect Wanli Gu Yoli. She's now the king's follower. After saying that, Wu Ming left the living room. Yoli, congratulations. You've been recognized by the king. Erica smiled kindly. Huh? He's recognized. Wanli Gu Yoli was still a little confused. Lord Wu Ming said that just now because he was worried about your safety. After all, we came to Japan this time to do something, Liliana explained. Actually, Wu Ming's personality is quite kind. He doesn't look like a king at all. However, he can show the king's side at the critical moment, Erica said. That's why we decided to follow the king, Liliana added. Is that so? Wanli Gu Yoli was at a loss. Alright, we'll tell you more about Wu Ming when we have time. It's almost dinner time now. Let's go prepare the king's dinner. Erica looked proud. You speak as if you've cooked before. I'm the one who prepares the food for the king, and you often use the king's kindness to snatch food from the king. You despicable vixen. Liliana's face was full of anger. Ah, it's because Lily's cooking is too delicious. Also, once I'm hungry, I can't help but say some strange things. Erica had a sly look on her face. Like, on a night when the clouds covered the moon, he came to my room or something like that. You, where did you know that? Liliana's face was red as she shouted with tears in her eyes. Ah, that's a secret. Wah! Looking at Erica and Liliana who were playing around, Wanli Gu Yoli was slightly relieved. There was actually another reason why Wanli Gu Yoli decided to stay, and that was, because Lord Wu Ming once saved me. Chapter 194. On the second day after Wu Ming settled down, a guest came to the villa where he was staying. It was a beautiful girl in a Japanese school uniform with long black hair. Next to her was a long object wrapped in a string. There was a trace of divine power leaking out of the long object, and Wu Ming sensed it. It's probably a god relic. Wu Ming thought to himself. Then, this beautiful girl knelt in front of Wu Ming in the form of a sitting position under the earth, and said something that could be misunderstood and shocked. Nice to meet you. You must be Master Wu Ming. I'm Hui Na from the Qingqiu courtyard, your concubine. Please take care of me. Hui Na. Why are you here? And what's with being a concubine? Wanli Gu Yoli asked in surprise. It seemed like the both of them knew each other and had a good relationship. Yoli is here to be Master King's concubine too. Hui Na from the Qingqiu courtyard, who was kneeling on the ground, lifted her head and revealed her beautiful face. She looked at Wanli Gu Yoli. And no, why would I be a concubine? Wanli Gu Yoli's face was flushed and her tone was stiff. Is that so? That's a pity. I thought I could fight the European harem team with you. Wait. You've been saying things that I don't understand since the beginning. What's with the concubine and the European harem team? Wu Ming asked in confusion. Aren't the two ladies next to you your harem? Hui Na from the Qingqiu courtyard said something that made him speechless. Her gaze was calm as if she was asking if he had eaten today. Hui Na from the Qingqiu courtyard then continued. As we all know, Princess Alice of Europe and England is your first concubine, Erica of Red Bronze and Black Cross is your second concubine, and Liliana of Red Bronze and Black Cross is your third concubine. If the fourth concubine, Guyoli, is included, the harem is very obvious, isn't it? Hui Na of the Qingqiu courtyard tilted her head in confusion. I told you I'm not. Wanli Guyoli tried his best to explain, but Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na ignored him. Instead, she stared at Wu Ming. Wu Ming could tell from her red eyes, which were similar to his, that Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na did not harbor any evil thoughts. She was pure. In other words, the other party really thought so from the bottom of his heart. How pure must her heart be to be so gullible, Wu Ming complained. Wu Ming helplessly touched his face and began to explain. That's where you're wrong. Erica and Liliana are my knights. If I have to name them, they're more like confidants than lovers, much less harem. Erica and Liliana also nodded, indicating that they agreed with Wu Ming. Excellent men were indeed attractive to women, but it didn't mean that Erica and Liliana had to be Wu Ming's harem. At the very most, Erica and Wu Ming had been in contact for less than a month, and Liliana had been in contact for less than a week. It could be seen that Wu Ming had not been in contact with Erica and Liliana for a long time. For now, they only had a slight favorable impression of each other. Let's not talk about the future for the time being. Right now, the two of them had a good impression of Wu Ming as if they were relatives and friends who had been together for a long time. It was not like they liked each other, let alone lovers. Harem talk was even more nonsensical. As for the matter with Alice, that was just a simple prank of mine. I didn't do anything rude to Alice. Erica knows this. Erica nodded in agreement with Wu Ming. So you're saying that the king doesn't have a wife? Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na had an expression that said, I see, I'm shocked. That's right, that's the case. Wu Ming nodded. However, Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na said something even more shocking. In that case, let's make Hui Na the king's first wife. Wu Ming looked at Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na's innocent smile. He really did not know why she would say such a shocking topic. I say, you're almost done, Erica said at that moment. Don't you think it's silly to talk about being a concubine or the first wife? Erica mocked. Although Erica's words are inappropriate, I agree with her. This is really too impure, Liliana said righteously with a slightly red face. I also think it's a little rude. Huina has become a little strange. Wanli Gu Yoli's face was also red as he whispered. Even Yoli said that. Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na was shocked. I understand. Just as Wu Ming was about to catch his breath, Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na said something shocking again. Then, let Hui Na defeat all of you and become the king's first wife. With that, Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na reached out to the long object beside her. Stop it. Wu Ming suddenly exploded and gave Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na a knock on the head. It hurts. Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na covered the place where Wu Ming had knocked her head. With tears in the corners of her eyes, she looked at Wu Ming with an aggrieved expression. Seeing this cute scene, Wu Ming immediately swallowed the words of reprimand that he was about to say. In short, you will now follow me as my follower. That's it. Wu Ming sighed and said tiredly. Yes, I will definitely work hard to become the king's first wife. Looking at Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na, who had another strange target, Wu Ming sighed and didn't say anything else. Alright, let's get down to business. I've already told Yoli about this matter. Are you willing to become my follower? Moreover, if you don't want to be my follower, I can let you go, and the Japanese authorities will have nothing to say. Wu Ming raised the question again. You're right. However, Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na didn't think for a moment like Wanli Gu Yoli. Instead, she directly said without thinking. Hui Na didn't want to become His Majesty's follower. Grandfather told Hui Na to become His Majesty's follower, so Hui Na came. Hearing Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na's words, Wuming wanted to say something, but she continued. But, I'm now interested in the king, so I've decided to stay. Looking at Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na's serious expression, Wuming swallowed the words he wanted to say. Sure enough, the purer she was, the stronger she was. Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na's incomparable naivety almost made Wuming suffer internal injuries. So, that's it for the time being. Then, Wuming looked at the long object beside Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na. If it's you, you don't need protection, right? Wuming said. Of course, Your Majesty, Hui Na is Japan's first witch, Tachibana. Chapter 195. Speaking of that, Wanrifuri Furu also spoke. Wuming, Sama, we shaman can achieve the effect of cultivation by staying away from the world, so Hui Na will not stay in a place where people gather for a long time. She has been practicing in the mountains since she was a child, so as to achieve a clear mind. As for me, because I still need to go to school and take care of my sister, I can't live in the mountains like Hui Na. Later, Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na added. At Hui Na's level, I can capture objects that are moving at high speed. Also, my hearing is very good. I can tell who is walking by the sound of footsteps. Hui Na crossed her hands on her lower abdomen, looking like she was stroking a child. Moreover, Hui Na is also a spirit summoner. After Wanrifuri Furu said that, Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na smiled slightly, but that smile was quite proud. Spirit summoner? Erica and Liliana muttered, and they seemed to know the word. Spirit summoner? Is it someone who can make a higher level of power come to her body for her own use? Wuming guessed that spirit summoner might be similar to the job card. Yes, His Majesty is right. Spirit summoner is a spirit summoner who can use Grandpa's power. It's because of this power that Hina can become Japan's #1 Tadaira witch. Kiikyu courtyard's face was full of pride, just like a child. That also proved that Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na's mind was simple. She would do whatever she wanted, and her inner thoughts would be shown on her face. However, when Wuming heard Grandpa's power, his eyes lit up. About Spirit Summoner, I have seen it in historical data. It's a talent that is more advanced than Spirit Vision. Erica said with a serious face. Moreover, the shaman who can borrow God's power must stay in nature for a long time, not be contaminated by the secular world, and keep her body clean, otherwise, she will lose the ability to invite God to come. Erica looked at Wuming and blinked. If that's the case, it seems that Japan is ready to bleed, my lord. Wuming naturally shrugged indifferently. Wuming naturally knew what Erica meant, and from Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na's words, it was not difficult to judge the meaning of Japan's side. It was nothing more than using a honey trap to tie Wuming and Japan together, or let Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na follow Wuming. Since Erica became Wuming's knight, the status of Red Copper Black Cross instantly rose to the top in Europe. It was also because of this that Liliana could be said to have been gifted to Marquis Warband by the Black Bronze Cross. However, Marquis Wuming didn't take care of Red Copper and Black Cross's wish. After that, Liliana was taken in by Wuming, and Red Copper and Black Cross rose in status as well, on par with Red Copper and Black Cross. Wuming didn't bring anything substantial to the two organizations, but it should be known that Wuming was both a god slayer and a god of disobedience. Being under such a person's command would undoubtedly bring greater benefits. It was very likely that Japan wanted to give Qingqiu courtyard Hui Na to Wuming in the same way that Red Copper and Black Cross had given Liliana to Marquis Wuming. They wanted to obtain Wuming's protection and gain more benefits. I quite like your personality, and it's not impossible to take you in as a shaman. Wuming stroked his chin and pondered. But Liliana and Erica seemed to want to say something, but Wuming interrupted. I have my own ideas, trust me. Erica and Liliana looked at each other and nodded. Is there anything you need Hui Na to do, Your Majesty? Qingqiu courtyard. Hui Na had an excited expression. Don't worry, Your Majesty. No matter what difficulties there are, Hui Na will overcome them one by one. You can't be so sure, Miss Hui Na. Wu Ming smiled. Then, Wu Ming stated his request. I want to see your grandfather. Huh? Hui Na's grandfather. After that, Hui Na left as she had to ask for instructions. Wu Ming, Erica, Liliana, and Wanligu Yoli started discussing. Why does Lord Wu Ming want to see Hui Na's grandfather? Wanligu Yoli raised his doubts. Isn't that simple, Yoli? Erica smiled gracefully. Qingqiu Courtyard's Hui Na is a descent warlock, and Hui Na herself said that she can descend the power of her grandfather onto herself. That's enough to explain the problem. The power she summoned is the power of a god, which means that Qingqiu Courtyard has a god grandfather, Liliana added. Huh? Wanligu Yoli seemed to be shocked. After all, it was a little unbelievable that her best friend's grandfather was a god. Maybe that's why Japan isn't afraid of the god slayers. Also, I have a feeling that Hui Na's grandfather might have something to do with us coming to Japan. Wu Ming's words caused Erica and Liliana to start thinking. That. Although I don't know the purpose of Lord Wu Ming's visit to Japan, if possible, please let me help, Wanligu Yoli said worriedly. Wu Ming and the other two were stunned at first, then relieved. Of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked you to stay, Wu Ming said with a smile. Yoli has a high-level spirit vision that can provide a lot of help. It's much more useful than Lily's spirit vision, Erica said calmly. What? What does this have to do with me? Besides, spirit vision is an innate ability. Whether it's strong or not depends entirely on one's innate talent. If that's the case, Erica, who doesn't have spirit vision, is completely useless. Liliana lectured Erica with a displeased look on her face. In that case, the king who doesn't have spirit vision is also useless, in your words. As a knight of the king, how dare you judge the king so wantonly? You're really bold, Lily, Erica said slyly. How? How could that be? I was just talking about you. Why did you have to involve Lord Wu Ming? You despicable female fox. Liliana was so angry that her face turned red. Miss Erica and Miss Liliana have such a good relationship, Wanligu Yoli said enviously. At that moment, Wu Ming spoke. Then slowly blend in. If it's you, you can definitely do it, Wu Ming said with a smile as he looked at the witch Yuan who had the spirit of sacrificing herself to protect others. Wanligu Yoli was stunned at first, then smiled and nodded. Yes, I understand, Lord Wu Ming. Chapter 196. After Katsura left, she replied to Wu Ming the next day. Grandpa said that His Majesty can come to Grandpa at any time, but Grandpa will not provide any help. Whether he can come or not depends on Wu Ming's own ability. Then, Katsura stayed in Wu Ming's villa. Because Wanrigu Yoli's parents were basically not at home due to professional reasons, the burden of taking care of his sister was handed over to Wanrigu Yoli. In addition to going to school, Wanrigu Yoli basically stayed in the shrine or took care of his sister. Now, because of the arrival of Wu Ming, Wanrigu Yoli did not go to the shrine much except for the necessary school. Moreover, his place of residence had changed from his home to Wu Ming's villa. Because his home was some distance away from Wu Ming's residence, Wanrigu Yoli became quite busy. During this period, Alice, who was far away in Europe, said that she would come to Japan with the purpose of helping Wu Ming solve the matter of the last king. Because the prophecy of the last king that Alice saw with spirit vision was something far in the future, Wu Ming was not very anxious to solve this matter. Therefore, Wu Ming contacted Sebastian and asked him to meet Alice and escort her to Japan. After a few days of leisure, Wu Ming sat in the courtyard and meditated. In the Qingqiu courtyard, Hui Na knelt beside him. Liliana was making lunch in the kitchen. After Erica returned, she walked to the side and waited quietly. Wuming exhaled a long breath, ended his meditation, and then looked at Erica. What's wrong, Erica? In the past few days, except for Wanragu Yoli who needed to go to school, Erica, Liliana, and Katsura were unusually idle. Katsura practiced the witch training every day, and then accompanied Wuming, saying that it was convenient for His Majesty to order around. As for Erica and Lilia, apart from their daily cultivation, they would sometimes accompany Wuming, but most of the time, it was Erica who took the reluctant Lilia out shopping. Speaking of which, because Hui Na from the Qingqiu courtyard had said that the king only needed to eat the food she prepared, she had angered Liliana, who was Liliana's cook. After the two of them argued with each other and Liliana's persuasion, the two of them decided that each of them would take care of Liliana's and everyone's meals on different days. Today was the day Liliana was preparing food. That was why Hui Na from the clear autumn courtyard was by Wuming's side. Early in the morning, someone from the history editing committee seemed to have something to tell Wuming and wanted to invite Wuming over. It's just a small matter. How could we trouble our king to personally deal with it? Therefore, Erica refused the committee of history by saying, I can go, and left the house early in the morning. However, in Wuming's opinion, Erica was just bored here and wanted to have some fun. Something happened. The people from the history editing committee said that Bishop Luo Hao is coming to Japan. Erica looked serious. Luo Hao is coming. Wuming remembered his conversation with Luo Hao when he was in China. It seemed that Luo Hao did say that she would return to Japan soon. That's quite believable. It seems that Japan is going to suffer, Erica laughed gloatingly. However, Erica was right. As a godslayer, every king had the ability to cause trouble. One godslayer was already bad enough. If two godslayers came to the same area, it would not be a good outcome. In the records, as long as 2 to more than 10 godslayers gathered in each region, that region would not have a good time. As for Wuming, the exception was to become a godslayer. The several battles that Wuming fought after becoming a godslayer were either carried out in his own barrier or paid attention to not hurt ordinary people during the battle. After the battle, he would also use the props in Yggdrasil to repair the damaged areas. It could be said that he was the most unlike a godslayer. By the way, why don't you call her Tsuilian anymore? Erica teased. Hui Na of the Qingqiu courtyard also turned her head slightly and looked at Wuming. Ahem, I was forced by Luo Hao to call her that. At that time, I just didn't change my way of calling her. Wuming coughed and changed the topic. By the way, do you know why Luo Hao is here? Before Erica could speak, Hui Na of the Qingqiu courtyard answered first. Hui Na knows this. That lord must be here for Monarch Ape. That's what Kaneko said too, Erica added. Monarch Ape. Wuming muttered this name. It didn't sound like a human or a magician. It sounded more like a monkey-type god of disobedience. I've never heard of a monkey-type god with the name Monarch Ape. Wuming thought about his memory and asked Kalis to search for information about Monarch Ape. Wuming, can you guess the true identity of Monarch Ape? Erica smiled slyly. Seeing that Wuming was thinking, Hui Na of the Qingqiu courtyard gave him a clue. Actually, that's a god from another country that Grandpa tricked. Hearing Hui Na of the Qingqiu courtyard say this, Wuming touched his chin. Hearing this hint and thinking about Luo Hao's behavior of questioning about coming to Japan, Wuming could almost guess who this Monarch Ape was. The great sage, heaven's equal, Sun Wukong. Erica said the name of this god of disobedience. Sure enough, from the 3 hints of other gods, Luo Hao's country, and the monkey, he could only think of the all-powerful great sage, heaven's equal. Actually, Monarch Ape is still sealed. Hui Na of the Qingqiu courtyard said something surprising. Sealed? Where? Wuming asked. In the West Heaven Palace on Mount Riguang. Hui Na of the Qingqiu courtyard smiled. Mount Riguang was located in the Kanto region. As a tourist attraction with many shrines and temples, it attracted many foreign and domestic tourists every year. Especially in autumn, the red maple leaves on Mount Riguang were the main reason for most tourists to come. According to Kaneji Winter Horse, 100 years ago, Hierarch Luo Hao came to Japan with the excuse that it's a shame that he was raised by the Japanese despite being a hero of our country. He raised the West Heaven Palace together with the ground. But because Monarch Ape escaped to secluded world, it was left unsettled, Erica added. So, Luo Hao's purpose is to try to kill the great sage, Heaven's equal again. In that case, doesn't he have to first liberate the disobedient Sun Wukong? Wu Ming already understood why the history editing committee came to him. Not to mention the conflict between the two kings, just the fact that Hierarch Luo Hao liberated Monarch Ape and made him appear as the disobedient Sun Wukong was already a disaster. If it's Luo Hao, it's understandable. Chapter 197. After all, Luo Hao comes from a country with a strong sense of nationality. Moreover, as a woman born during the Qing dynasty, Luo Hao still had a strong sense of feudalism even after 200 years had passed. Those not of my race will definitely have different intentions. Those who offend my Huaxia will be punished no matter how far away they are. These words didn't come from the country where Luo Hao came from. The great sage, Heaven's equal, the insufferably arrogant monkey king Sun Wukong, was actually being raised by a former vassal country of Japan. It would be strange if she wasn't angry. Honestly, I can only say that as expected of the god of disobedience, a bunch of troublesome existences. Wu Ming shrugged helplessly. Meanwhile, Erica glanced at Wu Ming as if to say, "You're the one who's the most troublesome existence here, and you still have the nerve to talk about others." Of course, Wu Ming chose to ignore all of this. In that case, I'll have to go see your grandfather, Hui Na. At night, Wu Ming, Erica, Liliana, Wanli Yoli, and Hui Na from the clear autumn courtyard gathered at a shrine. At this moment, Wu Ming was squatting on the ground and drawing something. Soon, the last stroke was completed. Alright, in that case, the tunnel to the soul world is completed. Wu Ming waved his hand. This tunnel was something that Wanli Yoli and Hui Na from the clear autumn courtyard had told Wu Ming about. Because of Kala's existence, Wu Ming was able to easily complete the extremely difficult spell. Lord Wu Ming, are you really going to enter the soul world? Wanli Yoli looked at Wu Ming worriedly. That's right, Lord Wu Ming. I still feel that this method is inappropriate. Liliana also frowned. Wu Ming naturally knew what the two of them were worried about. The soul world, also known as the astral world, was the boundary between life and death, the crack between the worlds. The air in the soul world was unable to allow anyone to survive. Ordinary people or even magicians, if they stayed in the soul world in a state where they had no magic power, it wouldn't take long for them to enter a poisoned state. It would only take a few minutes for them to completely die. Although it was called the boundary between life and death, if one died in this world, their body and soul would also disappear. This was enough to show just how terrifying the soul world was. However, this wasn't the most terrifying part. That was because as long as one didn't have a physical body or had magic power cover their entire body, they would still be able to survive in soul world. The most terrifying part was the god of disobedience. That's right. Although the gods of disobedience all appeared in the real world, there were also gods of disobedience in the soul world. Ever since the ancient times, powerful creatures had been bound by human myths and legends. In the soul world, there were multiple gods, including Pandora, whom Wu Ming had met not long ago. A conservative estimate was that there were more than 20 gods in the soul world. Apart from the king of disobedience, there were also all sorts of powerful creatures, such as human magicians who had reached the pinnacle of cultivation, god ancestors who had fallen from the goddess of the earth, and so on. It was just that there were far fewer of them in soul world. These gods were basically all tired of wreaking havoc on the earth, so they all entered the soul world, which was called seclusion. However, there were also exceptions, and Pandora was one of them. The witch Pandora, she was the god of disobedience who had existed in the soul world since ancient times. Killing the god of disobedience and obtaining its power was a great curse set by Pandora. As the witch who left behind the only hope for mankind, Pandora could already be said to be the mother of the god slayers. That was also why when Wyrm first met Pandora, Pandora called herself mother. After that, perhaps because of Wyrm's identity as the god of disobedience, Pandora took a step back and chose to be the elder sister. Wyrm still had some doubts about becoming a god slayer with the identity of the god of disobedience. Wyrm always felt that Pandora knew that he wasn't from this world. Wyrm didn't believe that Pandora just chose an ordinary god of disobedience to become a god slayer. It may also be because of this, under Pandora's design, Wyrm could become a god slayer in this world with a disobedient body. Now that I thought about it, Wyrm, the god of disobedience, entering the soul world seemed quite reasonable. Don't worry, I am the combination of snake and steel. Those gods of disobedience who live in seclusion in the soul world are just timid in my opinion. In the face of timid people, even if there are many gods, I won't do anything. Believe in Wyrm, believe in the king of disobedience. Erica looked at Wyrm with confidence. Hui Na also believes that the king will be fine. At this moment, Hui Na exuded a very strong Yamato Nadeshiko smile. It was indeed worthy of being called a top-notch Yamato Nadeko by Kaneko Winterhorse. This momentum was really not for show. Seeing Wyrm, Erica, and Hui Na said so, Liliana and Yuri didn't say anything, but their worries couldn't be completely eliminated. Then, I'll take my leave first. Wyrm said with a smile. Then, the magic formation instantly lit up, making the four people unable to open their eyes. After the light disappeared, the four people looked at Wyrm. There was only an empty magic formation left in the place, and there was magic power exuding around it, indicating that Wyrm was here just now. The four people didn't leave, but sat around the magic formation, waiting quietly. The environment in the soul world was actually similar to the main world: mountains, cities, beaches, and oceans, but these places were covered in gray. The only thing that didn't exist was that there were no living creatures. In addition to these ordinary landscapes, there were also various strange worlds in the soul world, such as abstract painting style, Cthulhu style, and other kinds of appearances that were difficult for ordinary people to accept. In addition to these natural existences, the powerful existences in the soul world, such as the god of disobedience, could also create and change the appearance of the surroundings to suit themselves. For example, when Wyrm met Pandora, the space she was in was a completely white space with nothing else. This was the environment that Pandora had created for herself. Inside the soul world, a ray of light suddenly appeared. After the ray of light landed, it transformed into Wyrm. Wyrm's current environment was a city that looked similar to the main world. However, this city was covered in gray. So, this is the soul world. There's so much magic power here. Wyrm exclaimed as he observed his surroundings and sensed the abundant magic power here. Master, I can sense knowledge. At this moment, Kalas spoke up while standing on top of Wyrm's head. Knowledge? Wyrm asked. Yes, Master. You can try to think about some things. Wyrm listened to Kalas and activated the god of disobedience. Wyrm instantly opened his eyes wide as a large amount of knowledge poured into Wyrm's mind. Wyrm stopped thinking and shook his head. This was the side effect of a large amount of knowledge instantly entering his mind. I never expected that the soul world would have such an effect as well. While Wyrm was thinking about the god of disobedience, almost all the information about the god of disobedience started flowing into Wyrm's mind. However, because there was too much information, Wyrm instantly disconnected the information. It could be said that the soul world was a gigantic global information library. If one wanted to find any information, they could meditate in the soul world, and the soul world would instantly stuff all the information into their mind. That's right, the soul world would stuff all the information that one wanted into one's mind. Wyrm thought of a word. Omniscient and omnipotent. As long as one thought about something in this world, they would definitely obtain the answer. What else could this be if not omniscient and omnipotent? Kalas, I'll have to trouble you this time. Chapter 198. Yes, Master. After Kalis finished speaking, she began to glow. Wuming knew that Kalis was constantly recording things related to this world. As long as Kalis thought of a series of questions, she could get the answer. The answers were stored by Kalis for convenient reference in the future. Knowledge was actually wisdom, which was an extremely precious resource. Odin sacrificed an eye to obtain supreme wisdom, which was the Lune rune. Zeus obtained supreme wisdom after swallowing the goddess of wisdom, Métis. This was enough to show the importance of wisdom and knowledge. After Kalis entered her working state, Wuming began to wander around, looking at the surrounding scenery. No wonder there are gods living in seclusion here. Although this place is a bit strange, it is still a good place to live in seclusion. With that, Wuming stopped. Because a small wooden house appeared in front of him. Interesting. Wuming's mouth curled up slightly, then he walked towards the small wooden house. Opening the door of the small wooden house, he saw darkness. Although he couldn't see what was inside, Wuming still walked in. After entering, what entered Wuming's eyes was a gloomy space. In the middle of the space, there were 3 people sitting. On the left was an old monk wearing an ancient monk robe. On the right was a young girl with glass eyes wearing a gorgeous princess robe. The one in the middle was a middle-aged man with messy black hair. He was dressed in a rather sloppy ancient warrior's attire. Obviously, the black-haired middle-aged man in the middle was the leader of the old monk and the glass-eyed princess. The 3 of them sat in a triangular formation. There was a small hanging furnace in the middle with sake in it. The middle-aged man held a wine vessel in his hand, and the old monk and the glass-eyed princess didn't have wine cups or anything like that beside them. Obviously, this was prepared for the middle-aged man. Wuming walked in front of the middle-aged man, to the right of the monk and the left of the glass-eyed princess, and sat down. "Welcome, King of Disobedience." The glass-eyed princess bowed slightly and spoke first. Wuming nodded to show his respect. The old monk didn't say anything and Wuming didn't care about him either. "Ha ha ha ha, do you want a bite, otherworlder?" After the glass-eyed princess finished speaking, the big man in the middle raised his cup and shook it at Wuming. Wuming narrowed his eyes. It seemed that Pandora was not the only one who knew that he came from another world. "Forget about drinking. I don't really like drinking with people I'm not familiar with. Speaking of which, you're the grandfather that Hui Na mentioned, right?" Wuming asked directly. That's right, that's right. I'm Hui Na's grandfather. What do you think? My granddaughter isn't bad, right?" The burly man said with an evil look on his face as he drank another mouthful of wine. "Hui Na is a good child. It's a shame for her to stay under you." Wuming ignored the man's evil look and directly spoke sarcastically. "Anyway, I've already given her to you. Just treat her as your witch." The burly man didn't care about Wuming's sarcasm, smiled casually, and then drank another mouthful of wine. "Let's not talk too much. I don't care who the 2 people beside you are. I just want to know if the last king was hidden by you, the male life of Susanoo." Wuming not only directly stated his purpose, but also the real name of the burly man. Yes, the burly man in front of Wuming is a famous Japanese god, the male life of Susanoo, Susanoo. Susanoo was one of the 3 sons of Izanagi and Izanami, the 2 ancient gods of Japan. The other 2 are the Japanese sun goddesses, Amaterasu Amakami and Tsukuyomi. In Japan's Kojiki, Susanoo is called the male life of Susanoo. He also has many names such as Tame Horse Head, Tame King, Susanoo, Susanoo, and so on. All in all, Susanoo is a very important god in the pantheon, comparable to Athena of Greece. The reason why Wuming knew of the burly man's name was because of the long item wrapped in cloth from Clear Autumn Courtyard's Hui Na, Heavenly Cloud Sword. Hui Na claimed that this was the sky cluster cloud that her grandfather bestowed upon her, but Wuming discovered that this sky cluster cloud was a subsidiary god. The only god who could make the heavenly cloud sword be affiliated to was Susanoo. According to the legend, Susanoo wielded the sword of Tatsuka and killed the Yamata no Orochi. He found a treasure sword from the tail of the Yamata no Orochi, which was the heavenly cloud sword. In other words, the burly man was steel. However, the burly man was not displeased when his real name was revealed. Instead, he laughed out loud. Humph. As I said, as long as he comes in contact with Hui Na, he will know your name. The old monk sitting on the left said with some displeasure. So what? It doesn't matter to me whether he knows or not. It's really exciting. I have many names. Let's call me Susanoo for the time being. What about you, alien? Susanoo grinned and then asked Wuming. I also have many names, but my favorite is Wuming. Just call me Wuming. As soon as he said that, the old monk and Princess Glass Eyes instantly understood Wuming's intention. Since he was a god, he must have a weakness. Just like the followers of the Holy Grail War, hiding their real name was to avoid weaknesses. The name, Wuming, didn't sound like a god. In this way, they couldn't find his weakness through his name. Humph. Do you think we can't know your real name if you don't tell us? Your battle with another god slayer has already exposed your real name, Vilo-Silenst. The old monk was quite unconvinced. After the old monk said that, Princess Glass Eyes realized that something was going to happen. When she was about to speak, Wuming spoke. If my perception is correct, you are a human. Wuming's eyes became sharp and looked directly at the old monk. In Wuming's perception, the old monk was not a god, but a magician who cultivated to the extreme. And Princess Glass Eyes had a similar aura to Guinevere, whom Wuming had seen before. There was no doubt that Princess Glass Eyes was a god. Everyone here is a great existence. You are just a human, how dare you be presumptuous in front of me? Boom! Wuming's magical power rushed out of his body. Wuming's scarlet eyes stared at the old monk as if he was looking at a dead man. The old monk couldn't move as if he was in a dragon's nest, being stared at by tens of thousands of dragons. That was the pressure caused by Wuming releasing his dragon's power. The old monk's face instantly turned pale. Princess Glass Eyes and Susanoo, who were not targeted, also felt a little pressure. Please be merciful, Wuming-sama. Princess Glass Eyes said awkwardly. Wuming looked at her, and Princess Glass Eyes instantly broke out in cold sweat. Then, Wuming looked at Susanoo, who had already stopped smiling. Then, Wuming put away his dragon's power. In an instant, the old monk, who was targeted, breathed a sigh of relief. How about it, do you want to continue to test me, Susanoo-sama? Chapter 199. Wuming's words were not wrong at all. From the beginning when Wuming came in, the old monk did not speak. It was not until Wuming said Susanoo's real name that the old monk opened his mouth. Every time the old monk spoke, he was targeting Wuming, and Wuming could naturally see it. And although the three of them were sitting in a situation where Susanoo was the leader, it did not mean that he was the leader. It could be seen from Princess Glass Eyes' attempt to stop the old monk's speech, but she was interrupted by Wuming. The reason why he was interrupted was because Wuming also wanted to show Susanoo who was in charge. From the way Wuming released draconic force to suppress the old monk, it could be seen that Susanoo's smile had disappeared. As the root dragon, after absorbing the root power of the X-Moon world, Wuming's draconic force had reached an unprecedented height. Especially just now, if Wuming suddenly released draconic force at a very close distance and the other party was not prepared, he would be completely suppressed. Even Susanoo, who was not the target, felt the pressure, so he had to take it seriously. As for the magic power, Wuming deliberately released it to set off the atmosphere. You only need to tell me about the last king and monarch ape. I don't want to know anything else, including their identities. When Wuming said this, Susanoo began to laugh. Ha 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 ha, he kept slapping his thigh, and the magic power of Susanoo also leaked out. After laughing, Susanoo instantly looked at Wuming. As expected of someone from another world, you're really not weak. Even I, the graduated god of disobedience, want to play with you. Susanoo's eyes flashed with a dangerous light. In response, Wuming just said a few words. Is that so? Boom. The small wooden house instantly exploded, and 3 figures escaped somewhat awkwardly. God of disobedience, please calm down. Princess Glass Eyes said a little anxiously. The old monk next to her was a little angry. He's too arrogant, why don't we take him down together? The old monk looked at Susanoo and Princess Glass Eyes. Take me down. I even wonder if you're too old for your head. Wuming's voice came from the small wooden house that had turned into a pile of ruins. Although you were frozen by my draconic force was a sneak attack, don't overestimate yourself. Yes, although Wuming had successfully frozen the old monk with his draconic force, it did not mean that the old monk was a powerless guy. A magician who could work with the god of disobedience and the god ancestor had a certain degree of strength. But, boom. The ruins exploded and a meteor flashed through the ruins, accompanied by the sound of chains. It charged towards the old monk. Not good. Susanoo shouted and quickly retreated. Princess Glass Eyes followed, and the old monk stayed where he was. Don't underestimate me, God Slayer. The old monk roared and put his palms together to form a Buddhist seal. The Buddhist seals formed a wall filled with Buddhist aura. Boundless demonic power gushed out in all directions. One look and one could tell that this was not a weak move. However, the silver-white meteor easily broke through the Buddhist wall, as easily as a stone falling into the water. What? The old monk couldn't believe it. He was quite confident in his curse technique. That wall just now, even Susanoo would have a hard time attacking it. He didn't expect Wuming to break through it so easily. The chains wrapped around the silver meteor hit the old monk fiercely. The old monk was knocked away like a deflated ball and fell heavily to the ground. The old monk spat out blood. Obviously, as a human, even if his means were superb, his physical fitness was still inferior to Wuming. The silver meteor stopped, revealing Wuming's figure holding the rune of 10,000 methods. He just relied on the rune of 10,000 methods to easily break through the old monk's Buddhist wall. After all, as long as it was made of magical power, rune of 10,000 methods could return it to its original state, that is, nothing. In fact, if you used countless rule breakers to pierce a servant, you would be able to directly return to the martyr's palace. This was because a servant was an amalgamation of magic power. Of course, that was only if the servant stood there and did nothing to stop you from stabbing it. The rule breaker talisman in his hand, which had exhausted all of its power, shattered. Then Wuming looked at Susanoo, who dodged the chains just now, and Princess Glass Eyes, who went to the old monk's side to heal him. At the same time, Princess Glass Eyes spoke. Please calm down, Lord of Disobedience. Princess Glass Eyes' voice sounded quite helpless. Because she respected Wuming from the beginning, Wuming didn't want to trouble her, so Wuming didn't care about Princess Glass Eyes who healed the old monk. As for the old monk, if it weren't for Princess Glass Eyes, he would have died a long time ago. One must know that the current Enkidu was not a chain that could only bind the gods in myths. Instead, it had evolved into a powerful chain that could both attack and defend. Moreover, its binding effect had been enhanced ahead of time. That's Heaven's Lock, right? Susanoo asked. Although he didn't know what the lightning-shaped dagger in Wuming's hand was, it didn't mean that he didn't know the golden chain. Susanoo, who had a special intelligence channel, naturally knew that Wuming had a golden chain in his hand, and it was a chain that could attack gods. After careful study, Susanoo has determined that it was the Enkidu of the Sumer gods in Mesopotamia. That was why he dodged Wuming's attack just now. If he was tied by that chain, he would be at the mercy of Wuming. As expected of the Susanoo who used tricks to kill Orochi. It seems that you can only play tricks. Wuming sneered, then turned around. Susanoo's face was gloomy. I will kill the great sage, heaven's equal, and I will deal with the last king. After saying that, Wuming disappeared. Shrine. After Wuming entered Soul World, Erika, Liliana, Yuri, and Hina stayed around the magic formation. No one complained, they just waited quietly. At this time, the magic formation lit up again. All four of them were attracted to it. Wuming's figure appeared in the center of the magic formation. "How is it? Is it solved?" Erica asked. Chapter 200. Half and Half. As soon as Razan said that, Erica and the others were quite confused. There were two reasons why Wuming went to Seoul World to see Hui Na's grandfather. The first was about Luo Hao's crusade against the Great Sage. The second was about the Last King. Although Silent Wonder didn't get anything out of Susanu's mouth, because of his relationship with Yushur, the moment he asked the question, Silent Wonder was informed by Yushur about the Great Sage, Heaven's Equal and the Last King. However, because Yushur directly transmitted the knowledge to Wuming's mind instead of answering the question, Yushur only passed on the history of the Last King and the Great Sage. After the last king killed the last godslayer of the previous generation, he fell into a deep sleep in the place where he killed the last godslayer of the previous generation, which was Japan. Because it was a piece of history, Wuming didn't know who the last king was. He only saw the scene of him holding the sword of salvation and releasing the thunder of salvation. His figure was blocked by the lightning, so Wuming didn't see his figure clearly. However, Wuming always felt that there was a special power protecting him, so Wuming couldn't see his identity. The Great Sage, Heaven's Equal, was much easier to deal with. The Great Sage, Heaven's Equal, was sealed by the old monk, Susanu, Princess Glassy Eyes, and several other gods who lived in seclusion. They used a spell to target the Great Sage, Heaven's Equal. When the dragon snake appeared, the spell that trapped the Great Sage would weaken, and the Great Sage would be released. After the dragon snake was killed, the Great Sage would be forced back to the Western Heavenly Palace by the spell. Wuming guessed that the reason for this was to prevent the dragon snake from attracting the last king of the strongest steel. As everyone knew, steel and serpent were mortal enemies. Where there was serpent, there would be steel. Therefore, in order to prevent the last king from appearing, the Great Sage needed to eliminate the dragon and serpent. The reason why Wuming only said half of it was because there was too little information about the last king, so Wuming couldn't analyze the last king's weakness. Because of the lack of information, Wuming's warrior avatar has been unable to be activated. But, Wuming walked to the steps of the shrine. "I will solve the problem of the Great Sage and the last king," Wuming said arrogantly. Wuming's words were full of confidence, which made several people who were a little uneasy at first feel relieved. "Let's go back to sleep." After that, Wuming took the lead. Erica and the others looked at each other. Then, they smiled and followed soundless out of the shrine. The next day, airport. Wuming came here with Erica, Liliana, and Hui Na, waiting for someone's arrival. Wuming couldn't help but remember the content of Alice's call to him yesterday. Last night, Wuming returned to his room, and as soon as he lay down, the mobile phone specially prepared for Wuming rang. Because of Wuming's identity, the contacts on his mobile phone were basically the phone numbers of some high-level Magic Association members. This was to facilitate Wuming's actions in each area, although Wuming didn't need it. In addition to those, there were also the phone numbers of Erica, Liliana, Kotoan, Hui Na, Alice, Salvatore, and a few others. Of course, Wuming did not delete Salvatore's phone number, and he specifically marked, "Hang up." He picked up the phone and looked at the words, "Princess Alice," written on it. By the way, this mobile phone was given to Wuming by Alice. She called it, "I'm so busy that I can't contact you, so I specially prepared a mobile phone for you." Wuming picked up the phone and spoke immediately. "How can our princess have time to call me?" Wuming said calmly. "Master Wuming, you are really good at joking. Just call me Alice." Although the attitude was very respectful, Wuming still heard a trace of slyness from her words. "Well, take it as a return gift for the last time in your room," Wuming said with a sly smile. Although Alice looked like a well-behaved girl, Wuming knew that she had the potential to be a little witch in her bones. He could see it just by the fact that she had escaped from his house. Really, Master Wuming, I have something serious to talk to you about now. Although this sentence sounded very calm, Alice, who was on the other end of the phone, had already blushed. Fortunately, there was no one else around her. It was really a blessing to see Princess Alice of Europe blushing. You are coming to Japan tomorrow, right? Wuming did not tease Alice anymore and went straight to the topic. Oh. How did Master Wuming know? Did Mr. Sebastian say it? Alice's voice was full of surprise. In this regard, Wuming just smiled. When Wuming came to Japan, he specifically contacted Sebastian through contact magic and asked him to bring Alice to Japan to study The Last King together. The reason why Alice had not come yet after a few days was that Alice still had to deal with some things in Europe. Alice had originally escaped from her own house using the ghost body, which meant that Alice owed some work. Although Alice was the current special advisor of the Sage Parliament and didn't have many things to do, it still couldn't stop the accumulation of work. In fact, the reason why Alice sneaked to Wuming's place in Italy at that time was because the birth of the seventh king added a lot of tasks, which needed the permission of Alice, the former speaker and now special advisor, to carry out. Because of Alice's stubbornness, the accumulated missions had increased by the time she returned. The most important thing was Ericsson's obstruction. Although her master's body was fine, Ericsson was still a little worried about letting Alice cross half the world and go to Japan. As long as she was not facing the God Slayer, Ericsson could be said to be a perfect career woman. Even facing Sebastian, at most, she would just give in a little. Just as Seabass was about to argue with her, Alice stopped him. After that, Alice secretly left her house and boarded the plane. That's right, Master Wuming. I have already boarded the plane with Mr. Sebastian. I think we will arrive tomorrow morning. Remember to come and pick me up. Then, after Wuming said, "Oh," Wuming hung up the phone and went to sleep. Really, you are not a child anymore. Do you still need someone to pick you up? In the room provided by the History Editing Committee, Wuming said casually. Although he said that, Wuming still brought his old and new servants to pick him up. Wuming, Her Highness Alice has arrived. Chapter 201. Erica withdrew her gaze from the plane that had just landed outside the window. Wuming understood and stood up. Let's go and greet Her Royal Highness. Alice and Sebastian got off the plane and instantly saw Wuming and others who had been waiting for a long time. Thank you for your hard work, Sebastian. Wuming nodded to Sebastian. You are too kind, Master Wuming. Sebastian put his right hand on his heart and bowed slightly. Alice too, she is tired from the journey. You're talking as if I'm just an accessory. Is this how you treat a girl who was once alone in a room, Lord Wuming? Alice covered her face with her hands and sobbed softly, as if she was an abandoned girl. This caused Liliana and the others to be slightly surprised. However, Erica, who was an old friend of Alice's, wasn't surprised at all. Well, don't do that, I have a new discovery about the last king. Wuming shook his head helplessly. Seeing this, Alice stopped crying and put on a serious expression. Let's talk about it at my place. Later, Wuming, others, and Alice took the vehicle provided by the Historical Redaction Committee and came to the villa where Wuming temporarily lived. In the conference room of the villa, Sebastian stood behind Wuming, Alice sat opposite Wuming, listening to Wuming's explanation, while Erica and others listened quietly. So that's how it is, Master Wuming not only met Master Guinevere, but also entered the soul world. After listening to Wuming's speculation about the last king, Alice couldn't help but sigh. Well, that's how it is. Although that Susanuki-zun really pissed me off. Wuming said somewhat uninterestedly. Alice said after she organized her thoughts. What does Lord Wuming think of the legend of King Arthur? When Alice asked this question, Erica and the others were all puzzled. After all, there was a high probability that Wuming was the knight who was incarnated from the legendary dragon, Vilo Saranthod. It was like asking a chef what a spoon looks like. However, Wuming's answer was unexpected. If you're referring to a deeper understanding, I don't know much about the legend of King Arthur. After all, there were many gods in this world. A god might be the god of craftsmen in one divine system in Europe, and the god of fire in another divine system in Asia. But no matter what, the multiple names of the gods were related to each other. Therefore, even if Wyrm was indeed the Vilo their answered, he dared not claim that he had a clear understanding of the legend of King Arthur. Actually, the legend of King Arthur is fictional. Fictional? Everyone, including Erica, was shocked. Wyrm was a little puzzled. Although his identity was imposed by this world, it couldn't be said to be fictional. Then, as if thinking of something, Wyrm looked at Alice. Do you mean that the legend of King Arthur is based on me? Alice smiled and nodded. As expected of Lord Wyrm. That's right, that's the truth. Then, looking at everyone's dumbfounded expression, Alice continued. Lord Wyrm has met Guinevere. I believe your memory and hers should have been recovered. However, from what you said just now, it seems that your memory is not fully recovered. Wyrm just nodded at the mention of recovering his memory. Because there had been cases of gods of disobedience who had lost their memory, the sage council seemed to treat Wyrm, who didn't look like a god of disobedience, as a god of disobedience who had lost his ancient memory. In fact, it wasn't wrong. When Wyrm came to this world, he did know that he was the god of disobedience, but he didn't know what his divine name was. It wasn't until the battle with Wyrm that he learned that he was the Vilo their answered. However, now that he thought about it, it seemed that the Uruk Yenryong and their answered were also Wyrm's divine identity. After all, this was a world where the gods had multiple divine names. Then again, being treated as someone who had lost his ancient memory also saved Wyrm the trouble of explaining. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. Lord Guinevere, the divine ancestor, actually existed a long time ago. On the way to find the last king, Lord Guinevere met Lord Vilo. Everyone looked at Wyrm. Later, because she fell in love with Lord Vilo, but because she still shouldered the burden of finding the last king, Lord Guinevere had to fabricate the legend of King Arthur. Gods have multiple identities, and if you have enough means, you can pull them out of the myth. According to legend, the last king is the strongest steel, who will appear at the end of the world, that is, when there are too many gods' layers, the last king will appear. Combined with the story of King Arthur, everyone understood at once. In other words, Guinevere's original purpose was to create a myth similar to the last king, so as to summon the last king? Erica said with some disbelief. That's right. Alice nodded. Then what does this have to do with Wyrm, Sama? Liliana asked. Of course, it has something to do with it. Alice looked at Wyrm again. Because she fell in love with Lord Vilo, Guinevere unconsciously put Lord Vilo into the legend of King Arthur when she created the myth. In the end, the myth of King Arthur has been widely recognized by the world, and Guinevere, who realized the problem, added another identity to the King Arthur myth. That is King Arthur's strongest knight, Vilo their answered. Wanli Guyoli said. Yes, but it still doesn't change that King Arthur was created based on Lord Wyrm, but because Lord Guinevere was killed before the summoning ritual began, this method was not used. When Lord Guinevere was reincarnated, she had already discovered that the legend of King Arthur had been modified by humans in later generations, and it was no longer the legend of the last king, so Lord Guinevere gave up this method. However, this method created Lord Wyrm, right? Qingqiu Courtyard's Hui Na smiled slightly. That's right. Alice continued, and everyone looked at Wyrm. The current legend of King Arthur clearly shows how similar King Arthur and his strongest knight are. King Arthur is said to be the incarnation of the red dragon, and the Vilo is the legendary knight transformed from the dragon. King Arthur has an unparalleled sacred sword of stars, and the Vilo also has a sacred sword of meteor. The Knights of the Round Table worship and admire King Arthur and the Vilo the most. When King Arthur went out to war, the Vilo was in power in the city, and when the Vilo was out to war, King Arthur was in power in the city. The Vilo disappeared after the unification of Britain, and that was when King Arthur began to decline. Alice listed out a series of similarities between King Arthur and the Villo. These conditions undoubtedly show that Lord Wyrm, who is also Lord Villo, is King Arthur. The final sentence left everyone speechless for a long time. Well, Wyrm felt like his head was going to explode. Chapter 202. Wyrm was dumbfounded as he listened to Alice's explanation. At this moment, Wyrm only wanted to use one sentence to explain his current feelings. Sigh as the person involved, I didn't even know. Then, Wyrm said that he wanted to think about what to do next and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Everyone looked at Sebastian in confusion. Sebastian bowed slightly and said politely, Ladies, don't worry. Lord Wyrm's ability to accept things is very strong. He just needs time. Probably. In the end, Sebastian said, probably, with a guilty conscience. After all, this story was too strange. Even Sebastian could not accept it. After all, his worldview was messed up. On the other side, Wyrm sat on an empty beach and looked at the sea tiredly. What's wrong, my compatriot? Are you unable to accept what that witch said? A magnetic lowly voice came from behind Wyrm. Wyrm did not turn around and said calmly. When Alice got off the plane, Wyrm sensed Athena's presence. Then, Wyrm shook his head. That's not the case. Thinking about it, what Alice said seems to be true, the holy sword, the dragon, the knight, and his life experiences. The two of them complemented each other and were inseparable. In this world where there were many identities, there was nothing wrong with it. Then, why are you still so negative? This is not an expression that a warrior should have, my compatriot. Athena sat beside Wyrm and said in detail. Wyrm smiled and shook his head. That's true. Let's deal with the great sage, heaven's equal first. Wyrm stood up as he spoke. By the way, where have you been all this time? After all, this was the culprit that caused the battle between Wyrm and Perseus. Of course, Wyrm wanted to know what she did after achieving her goal. I have been chasing after the god ancestor. Athena looked at Wyrm with her snake-like eyes. Guinevere? Why? You shouldn't be in contact with her. Athena stood up and said. Although I have nothing to do with the god ancestor, I don't want to resurrect the strongest steel. After all, steel is my mortal enemy. Athena's words were full of disgust. Is that so? I'm sorry, I will resurrect the strongest steel because I want to defeat him. Wyrm's red eyes met Athena's snake-like eyes. In that case, you are my enemy. Athena's tone was cold. The two of them looked at each other without saying a word. The atmosphere turned cold. By the way, are you still chasing after the snake? Wyrm suddenly asked. Athena was surprised for a moment. Then, she looked at Wyrm with her charming and tender face and her unusually firm eyes. Of course, my goal is only the snake. Then, here you go. As he spoke, Wyrm tossed a stone to Athena. My compatriot, what are you planning? Athena held Gorgon's stone with both hands and looked at Wyrm with some doubts. Aren't you the goddess of wisdom? Think about it carefully. Wyrm casually bowed. Oh, are you trying to test my wisdom? Darkness appeared in Athena's hand as she put away the Gorgon stone. You want to fight with me, don't you, my compatriot? Athena glared at Wyrm, her eyes filled with fighting spirit. As the goddess of wisdom, Athena was also the goddess of war. She appeared as the god of disobedience, so she must be belligerent in her bones. Wyrm also nodded. Yes, I want to fight with you, but, I want to find and resurrect the last king, and you want to stop the resurrection of the last king. You said before that there will be a battle between you and me. So, let's use this battle to decide whether to release the last king or not. Wyrm also looked at Athena with a smile full of fighting spirit. That sounds good. I agree. Athena began to release her magical power, and darkness began to fill the surroundings. But the time has to be after I defeat the great sage, heaven's equal. Wuming said just when Athena was surrounded by snakes. Athena looked at Wuming with some displeasure. Are you trying to escape, my compatriot? Facts prove that as the god of disobedience, even the goddess of wisdom would be disturbed by the nature of the god of disobedience. Don't misunderstand, I have no intention of escaping. First, it's because Luo Hao is about to come to Japan, and I have to defeat the great sage, heaven's equal before he arrives. Second, you haven't recovered your Trinity body yet. I left a seal on the Gorgon stone just now. I believe that even you would need a few days to unlock it. Athena's frown eased. Thinking carefully, when she came into contact with the Gorgon stone just now, nothing happened. Logically speaking, when Athena came into contact with his divinity, the Gorgon stone, the two would definitely merge into one. Wuming deliberately added a super-advanced seal on the Gorgon stone to guard against Athena. Now, it was no longer necessary. Is this also part of your plan? You're both my compatriot and my nemesis. Athena revealed a smile despite her words. All right then, let my intelligence experience the sealing technique you've set up. Then, Athena turned around and disappeared into the darkness. Let me remind you, the god ancestor and his god's shadow have also come to the easternmost land. Athena's voice floated in the air and gradually faded away. Guinevere and Lancelot also came. I was wondering why Athena suddenly came to Japan. Wuming analyzed. Then, Wuming also turned around and disappeared like a whirlwind. On the other side, Guinevere held a round plate in his hand and stood on a high ground, looking into the distance. Lord Villo, Lancelot, who was in his shadow, shook his head helplessly. He said to himself. Sorry, Lord Villo, for the master that I can't forget, I will stand on his side. Huaxia, Lu Mountain. A beautiful girl sat on a cushion and said to the boy kneeling in front of her. Go to Japan first and inform the court that Luo Hao will visit in a few days. Yes, master, disciple will take his leave. Wait. The girl stopped the boy. Don't forget that he is also there. You must go and visit him first. Don't be rude. The girl reminded him. Master, don't worry, will visit Lord Wuming first. In a secret cult's hideout in the United States. The enchanting silver-haired vampire was holding a little girl covered in wounds and naked with only a few bandages covering her body. Beside her were various black magicians who had been drained of blood and died a long time ago. I say, you are really good at running. You made me delay the mission that Lord gave me. The vampire smiled seductively, but the injured girl had already fainted. Now, the conditions to unlock the last king are almost there. I remember that Lord is in a place called Japan. Thinking, the silver-haired vampire dragged the unconscious girl and left. The easternmost land was destined to not be peaceful. Chapter 203. That night, Alice stayed in Wuming's villa. Of course, it was a harmonious night. Nothing happened that shouldn't have happened. Early the next morning, a handsome young man came to Wuming's residence. The disobedient king of heaven and earth will live as long as the heavens and earth, and will never be destroyed. Your might is limitless, and your wisdom and benevolence will shine throughout the world. Lu Yinghua did not dare to be negligent. After Luo Hao notified the others, he rushed to Japan overnight. Since it was late at night, he did not disturb Wuming. However, early the next morning, Lu Yinghua knelt 3 times and kowtowed 9 times to Wuming. Stop right there. Wuming sighed. He felt a headache coming on as he looked at Lu Yinghua, who was kneeling on one knee before him. Erica and the others around him were looking at him with shocked expressions. Didn't I tell you before? You don't have to say that when you see me. However, Lu Yinghua kept his head down and knelt on one knee. Master said that I can't do anything to you. If I don't do this, Master will kill me if she finds out. The others were speechless. As expected of the cult master. You have quite the personality. Erica said with a fake smile. As expected, the gods' layers are all brutal. Wanli Gu Yoli looked at Wu Ming with resentment. Wu Ming waved his hand. Don't compare me to the other gods' layers. That's right. The other gods' layers can't compare to our master's combat prowess. Liliana recalled how Wu Ming had repaired the destroyed grounds after the battle. As he listened to the girl's comments, Wu Ming vaguely noticed that Lu Yinghua's expression was slightly unnatural. It was as if he was holding something back. But, isn't the king's nature a god? Clear autumn courtyard's Hui Na's innocent face was filled with doubt. When she said that, the others, including Lu Yinghua, remembered that Wu Ming was a disobedient god. Because Wu Ming's behavior was too similar to that of an ordinary person, everyone subconsciously treated Wu Ming as a human. Then, realizing that Wu Ming was the god of disobedience, Lu Ying immediately fell to the ground on all fours. You are the supreme god of the heavens and the earth. You will live as long as the heavens and the earth. You will never be destroyed, and you will rule over all things. Your might is limitless, and you will benefit the world. Endless words came out of Lu Yinghua's mouth. Wu Ming didn't want to say anything more. You came looking for me because Luo Hao is about to come to Japan, right? Wu Ming instinctively interrupted Lu Yinghua's speech. Because he was interrupted, Lu Yinghua was stunned for a moment before replying. Yes, and my master has a very high opinion of you, senior. He asked me to pay you a visit with the same etiquette as my master. My master specifically asked me to send a message to you. The great sage, Heaven's equal, is a god that my master is determined to kill. I hope that you will not interfere. However, this sentence was filled with power. As soon as he said this, Erica and the others were displeased. Just as Erica and the others were about to say something, Wu Ming raised his hand and gestured for them to keep quiet. Then, Wu Ming spoke. In that case, please tell Luo Hao that I've decided to crusade against the great sage, Heaven's equal. If possible, tell her not to come. Then, Wu Ming added. Just take it that I've settled it for her. As soon as he said this, Lu Yinghua's eyes widened. As expected of the king of disobedience, my master's best friend, and a person who disobeys everything. I'll definitely pass on your message. I'll take my leave. After saying this, Lu Yinghua couldn't take it anymore. He turned into a shadow and left. I don't know why, but I feel like he hates us, Erica said while stroking her chin. I have the same feeling. I can sense a faint hostility from Lu Yinghua, Liliana agreed. Huh? Really? I didn't feel it. Wanli Gu Yoli was at a loss. That's because you don't have any combat experience, Yoli. Erica and Liliana are both Grand Knights. Being able to sense hostility is a necessary condition for a warrior, Wu Ming explained. His Majesty is right, Yoli. Huina can also sense that hostility, Huina, who was the number one witch Tachibana, also said. Wanli Gu Yoli lowered his head slightly, as if blaming himself for not being able to sense it. Seeing this scene, Wu Ming spoke with a smile. Don't underestimate yourself, Yoli. Your spirit vision is a trump card. Wanli Gu Yoli raised his head and looked at everyone. Erica and Huina also nodded. Then, Liliana said. That's right. Although I also have spirit vision, compared to yours, mine seems a little useless. Despite this, Liliana wasn't discouraged. After all, she was a knight, not a witch. After all, a talent like spirit vision couldn't be improved through training. Therefore, Wanli Gu Yoli's high probability spirit vision could be said to be a very powerful ability. Don't belittle yourself, Yoli, Erica teased. Have confidence, Yoli. Qingqiu Courtyard's Huina raised her small hand and acted like she was cheering Wanli Gu Yoli on. Is that so? Thank you very much, everyone. I'm fine. Wanli Gu Yoli blushed a little. As if thinking of something, Wu Ming scratched his head in confusion. Speaking of spirit vision, where did Alice go? If it's Alice, she probably overslept, the meticulous Liliana said. After all, Erica also had the habit of sleeping in. When Liliana went to wake Erica up, she also went to check on Alice. As a result, a rather drowsy voice of, "I'll sleep for another 5 minutes," came from the room. Due to Lu Yinghua's arrival, Liliana had forgotten about this matter. "So, our Princess Highness hasn't woken up yet?" Wu Ming's eyes flashed with a playful glint. "Ah, Wu Ming, are you going to do something?" Erica asked slyly. WH. What do you want to do?" Liliana, Wanli Yoli, and Qingqiu Courtyard's Huina shouted with flushed faces. "Don't worry, I'm just going to wake Alice up." As he spoke, Wu Ming walked toward Alice's room. He left behind a group of stunned girls who had yet to react to the situation. Wait. Even if you're a king, you can't be rude to a lady. You're really shameless. Hui Na thinks it's not good to do this so early in the morning. Amidst the three girls' condemnation, Wu Ming walked to the stairs leading to the second floor and took out a bunch of keys. "The spare keys that guy gave me have come in handy." Wu Ming recalled the "I know what to do" look on Gantai Dong Ma's face when he secretly gave him a bunch of keys. When the girls saw the keys in Wu Ming's hand, their expressions changed drastically. If that was the case, did it not mean that Wu Ming had spare keys to every room? The girls had no time to care about Alice's situation. They hastily returned to their rooms and began to reinforce their doors. However, they seemed to have forgotten that even if it was a high-level magic trick, Wu Ming's Godslayer body could ignore it. Chapter 204. Walking into Alice's room, Wu Ming saw a picture of a sleeping beauty. Although she only stayed for one night, the room was tidied up like a young girl's room. Together with the beautiful European princess, it formed an exceptionally beautiful picture. Smelling the fragrant scent of a young girl in the air, Wu Ming walked toward Alice, who was still asleep. Perhaps because Alice's body was not well all year round, it formed a habit of not getting up in the morning. Coupled with yesterday's journey, even with Wu Ming's protection, the mental fatigue could not be eliminated. After all, Wu Ming's long-term protection only turned Alice's body into the same as a normal person's. All sorts of reasons resulted in the scene before Wu Ming's eyes. Looking at Alice's sleeping face, Wu Ming couldn't think of pranking her anymore. Wu Ming stroked Alice's forehead as he spoke softly. "Alice, wake up, it's time to get up." "Erickson. I'll sleep for a while more. Anyway, I'm done with those things." Alice murmured. Wu Ming smiled helplessly. Because Wu Ming's mischievous heart was ignited again. Then, Wu Ming leaned close to Alice's ear and blew. "If you don't get up, I'm going to give you another long-lasting protection kiss." Alice's consciousness was instantly awakened as she opened her amber-like eyes. Looking at the sleeping beauty waking up, Wu Ming watched with interest and didn't move at all. Master Wu Ming, it's you." Alice grabbed her blanket, her face flushed, and nervously looked at Wu Ming's enlarged face. Wu Ming didn't speak, he just looked into Alice's eyes. Alice also looked into Wu Ming's eyes. Gradually, Wu Ming's body leaned forward slightly, and Alice, as if cooperating, raised her body slightly. The two of them kissed each other like lovers who had not seen each other for a long time. All that was left in the room was the sound of people clicking their tongues and panting. After an unknown period of time, the two of them separated. Alice's posture changed from lying on the bed to lying in Wu Ming's arms, and Wu Ming's posture changed from half lying on the edge of the bed to sitting on the bed. Alice gasped for air. Her cheeks were abnormally red, and her amber eyes were moist. Wu Ming, on the other hand, licked the corner of his lips in reminiscence as he looked at Alice with a smile. "Then, Lord Wu Ming, are you here to flirt with a lady?" Alice looked at Wu Ming with resentment. Wu Ming looked at Alice in his arms, who was different from her usual ladylike demeanor, and said happily. "Of course, it's to see you act like a little witch. You're here for the great sage, heaven's equal, right?" Alice said without thinking. After all, the matter of the great sage, heaven's equal, was more important. As expected of the princess, Alice. Wyrm smiled. Wyrm did not let go of Alice, and Alice did not struggle. She just lay in Wyrm's arms. I want you to help me see the power of the great sage, heaven's equal. That's right, Wyrm meant to let Alice use her spirit vision to see the power of the great sage, heaven's equal. After all, in the legends, Sun Wyrm wreaked havoc in the heavenly palace, fought his way to the 33rd heaven, broke into the underworld, wrote off the Book of Life and Death, learned the 72 transformations, and had endless transformations. He had the somersault cloud, which could be said to be unparalleled, and he also had the golden cudgel, a divine weapon in his hand. After all, even if Wyrm was very powerful, he would not ignore any enemy. This was what his master, Skaha, told Wyrm. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you'll never be defeated. Don't you have Witch Yuan with you who can use spirit vision? Why don't you just let her do it? Alice said in a rather frivolous voice. Wyrm smiled bitterly. As for Yoli, she needs to see the target before she can use it. So, I'm here to ask you for a favor. Who doesn't know that the famous Princess Alice can use spirit vision on her own? Wyrm was right. Although Yoli's spirit vision was advanced, there were still limitations. She could not use spirit vision on her own accord. Generally speaking, as long as one had the talent of spirit vision, there would be a chance to activate spirit vision passively, regardless of the level of spirit vision. However, not everyone with the talent of spirit vision could activate spirit vision on their own accord. For example, although Liliana also had spirit vision, she could not use it on her own accord. She could only rely on her own spirit vision passively. Wanli-gu Yoli could use spirit vision on his own accord, but he must have a specific target. Otherwise, he could only rely on spirit vision passively. Alice, who was known as White Witch Ji, could use spirit vision on her own accord. In other words, Alice could use spirit vision on the things in her mind. However, using spirit vision on her own accord had the negative effect of consuming a lot of stamina and mental power. Moreover, if the activation of spirit vision had a series of powerful effects, such as the higher the level, the higher the image she saw, and the longer the duration, the negative effect would also increase. The last time Alice saw the scene of the Last King, her body almost disappeared after using spirit vision. It was also because the level of spirit vision was too high, and the image she saw was more advanced. Alice pretended to be in a difficult situation. But the great sage equaling heaven's spirit vision must be very advanced. My body can't bear it. However, Wyrm had already expected Alice to say that. That's why I'm here. It doesn't matter even if the buff I gave you is used up, because I can replenish it immediately. Moreover, it's the fastest way. Saying that, Wyrm looked at Alice's pink lips. No, I think I can still do it if I try hard. Alice immediately said in a panic. Oh, is that so? I think it's hard enough. Let me give you some blessing in advance. Wait, after another round of bickering, Wyrm helped Alice up. Sure enough, no matter how many times they kissed, Alice was always like a girl, and her cheeks were red. She looked at Wyrm with some resentment, but Wyrm smiled. Then, I'll start. Having said that, Alice entered her spirit vision state. Alice's eyes fell into a lifeless state, and as she fell into this state, she started to mumble. The golden ape, sealed in the Amaterasu palace. The fragile golden pillar of heaven, the invisible speed, and the delusion breaker eye, attached to it. The overlord of the sea's follower, he was the conqueror of everything, the ever-changing lord of dragons and snakes. Thus, he was resurrected by the steel dragon's forbidden dagger, and died by the steel dragon's hands. After that, Alice's body went limp, and Wyrm quickly held Alice. Alice gasped for breath. Her weak body trembled slightly, and her pale cheeks were dripping with sweat. I didn't expect that just one active spirit vision would exhaust you so much. I'm sorry, Alice. Wu-ming said apologetically. Alice smiled and shook her head. Then, please bless me again, Lord Wu-ming. Use the fastest way. In the room where the sun was shining, the man hugged the girl, and gradually, the two became one. Chapter 205. After he walked out of Alice's room, Wu-ming saw several women before him. Stare, Wu-ming asked in confusion. What are you doing? Lord Wu-ming, you didn't do anything to Lady Alice, did you? Wanli Guyoli asked in detail. Wu-ming suddenly smiled. Of course, I'm just waking Alice up. When it came to matters like this, he had done it. However, he had to maintain the appearance that he had not done anything. Well, after all, Her Highness Alice and Wu-ming are publicly acknowledged as a couple in the magic world. It's none of our business whether they did it or not. Erica waved her hand. You're too shameless. My lord, how could you do such a ridiculous thing in broad daylight? Don't listen to Erica's nonsense. Wu-ming frowned. Although something had indeed happened between him and Alice, it was not to that extent. That kind of thing was about things happening naturally. It was just like Wu-ming and Alice's first kiss. They had met each other's eyes, and they had kissed. Although the aura of a young lady on the king is stronger, it's not to that extent. It could only be said that natural airheads were invisible blades. Although Hui Na of the clear autumn courtyard blushed, she still told the truth. As expected, you did something to Lady Alice, didn't you? Wanli Guyoli suddenly roared. You're damaging the king's dignity. You must be careful. As the king, your words and actions will always affect the people around you. Moreover, it's broad daylight. Although Wanli Guyoli appeared to be a yes-man, she was actually a witch who could reprimand the mistakes of those in power. However, she would always be scared to death afterward. Most importantly, when she was reprimanding, Wanli Guyoli was like an old woman. Let's go to the Western Heavenly Palace. We'll deal with the great sage equaling heaven today. Wu-ming directly interrupted Wanli Guyoli's lecture. So sudden? Erica asked seriously. It had to be said that Erica was the head of the few girls who were Wu-ming's attendants. Although Hui Na of the Blue Autumn Yard wanted to be the first, she was too simple and not as good as Erica in romance. Erica was usually as cunning as a fox, but when it came to business, Erica could always change her mind first, like a ferocious lioness, giving others a sense of trust. Alice triggered her spirit vision just now and told me about the great sage, heaven's equal. Moreover, Lu Yinghua has already arrived. Luo Hao should be here soon too. Let's take down Sun Wukong before she arrives. Only then did everyone understand why Alice, who had been woken up by Wu-ming, did not follow him out of bed. The four girls naturally knew that after using spirit vision, one's body would be greatly weakened. Right now, Alice was probably so weak that she could not even get out of bed. However, the girls had forgotten that Alice had the protection bestowed upon her by Wu-ming. A mere passive spirit vision shouldn't be able to weaken her to the point where she couldn't get up. Doesn't Miss Alice need someone to take care of her? Wanli Guyoli looked worried. As Witch Yuan, who was also tortured by spirit vision until her body was weak, Wanli Guyoli still understood how uncomfortable it was. No need. Alice is already asleep. As long as we hurry back after dealing with the great sage, heaven's equal, she will be fine. Moreover, I will leave Sebastian in the villa. Sebastian is very reliable. In order to prove Wu-ming's words, Sebastian suddenly appeared. Sebastian placed his right hand on his heart and his left hand straight to his trousers as he bowed slightly. I see. Since it's Mr. Sebastian, then he's very reliable. Erica nodded. Erica had known Sebastian for a longer time than the other girls. She had a clear understanding of Sebastian, who was both Wu-ming's authority and Wu-ming's subordinate. Can you imagine the scene of waking up early in the morning and seeing an old man who was as good as Wyrm being thrown by Wyrm into a small mountain, causing the mountain to collapse and still come out intact? Although Wyrm repaired the mountain with a prop that was suspected to be an authority, the impression he left on Erica could not be erased. In that case, let's go. Subsequently, Wyrm directly used the portal. Although he had never been to the West Heaven Palace, Wyrm had the photos of the West Heaven Palace provided by Hui Na. Wyrm smoothly opened the portal to the West Heaven Palace. As soon as they stepped out of the portal, they saw a palace with stone monkey sculptures everywhere. Whether it was the eaves, corners, roadsides, or the central scenery, they were all stone monkey sculptures of different shapes. Because Wyrm had already spread the news, Empty Riguang was now in a state of closure. At this moment, there was no one there, even one of the 4 major families in Japan that managed the West Heaven Palace, Kyohachi family, was not there. I have to say, this is really the place where the Monkey King lived. Erica commented. After all, the Monkey King was actually a monkey. Wyrm felt the magic circle contained in it, and pointed to the place with the highest magic power. Let's go. The great sage, Heaven's equal, is probably sealed there. Walking toward the West Heaven Palace, a small ancestral temple appeared. Walking into the ancestral temple, there were a lot of mahogany inside. A large number of strings were spread out on the mahogany. Those strings formed a special enchantment, which was the City of Horse Protector, and the spell that restricted Monkey King was the City of Horse Protector. Somewhere in the ancestral temple, a golden-haired monkey was lying on a pile of hay. Although this monkey was unusually handsome, it gave people a feeling of desolation. This ancestral temple was connected to the hidden world. The Monkey King was trapped in the cage of the hidden world. The Monkey King, who was inside the ancestral temple, could not leave this ancestral temple. According to the official history committee, the lattice gate of the ancestral temple could only weaken the seal of the City of Horse Protector by using a special method, then open the corridor of the hidden world, and then let the Monkey King go out to kill dragons and snakes, and then be brought back here by the City of Horse Protector. This is the Monkey King. Wyrm now knew why Luo Hao was so persistent in coming to Japan to kill the great sage equaling heaven with his own hands. The great sage equaling heaven was actually in such a state. Even Wyrm couldn't stand it anymore. Oh! Aren't those little girls coming this time? It seems that they are not ordinary people. They are not only enemies but also compatriots. Interesting. The golden monkey spoke human language, but no matter how he listened, Wyrm could hear the voice of a walking corpse. Are you satisfied with the status quo, son Wyrm? Wyrm frowned and was a little upset. However, the golden monkey just turned over and lay down comfortably. What else can I do? I am restrained by the City of Horse Protector. I can't escape by myself. In that case, it's better to stay here. Anyway, there will be some little girls coming to play with me every once in a while. I won't be lonely. Although that was what he said, Wyrm's loneliness could be heard by Wanli Guyoli. And those little girls should be the ones who weakened the City of Horse Protector. Is that so? What if I say I will liberate you today? The golden monkey, who had its back facing Wyrm and others, flashed a light in its eyes. Chapter 206. Hey, I don't think it's good for you, little brother. Monkey smiled, but his body kept twisting, proving his excitement at the moment. I just need you to fight with me, that's all. If you win, you will be free. If you lose, you will return to the mythical realm. Wyrm looked at Monkey's eyes seriously. Interesting, for such a person who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, old son, usually beat him, but, Monkey turned over, jumped up, squatted, and looked at Wyrm. I, old son, am still happy to accept your challenge. Then it's settled. Wyrm stretched out a hand and began to gather magical power. Create green item, advanced item creation. A large amount of magical power began to be drawn from Wyrm's body and gathered in Wyrm's hand. The fluctuation of magical power gathered formed a magical whirlwind, raging inside the temple. However, the temple, including the peach wood inside, remained motionless. It seemed that the spell that not only trapped Monkey King, but also made Luo Hao return in defeat was indeed not fake. Then a lightning-shaped purple dagger appeared in Wu Ming's hand. Everyone just looked at it, and they could feel that the dagger was full of magical power. Rule Breaker. Wu Ming shouted the real name of the noble phantasm, and suddenly held the dagger and stabbed Monkey King. In an instant, light filled the entire temple. Ha 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 ha. I, old son, am back. A rather excited shout came out of the light. The light dissipated, and Monkey King, who was originally on the hay, was gone. There was a big hole on the roof of the temple. Obviously, Monkey King was liberated. Let's go and meet the great sage, Heaven's equal. In the sky above the western temple, a golden-haired monkey-like existence wearing a golden chain armor flew on a cloud. Wu Ming and several women stood in the courtyard, watching this scene. That. Lord Wu Ming, aren't you afraid that the great sage equaling heaven will escape? Wanli Gu Yoli raised his small hand and asked carefully. Of course not. He is the great sage equal to heaven, Sun Wukong. He will not run away before he fights with the enemy. Wanli Gu Yoli's thoughts weren't wrong. After all, in myths and legends, Sun Wukong had escaped more than once. However, that was only when Sun Wukong was dealing with difficult enemies. For example, when he was still the great sage, heaven's equal, when he was fighting against Erlang Shen and the Azure Bull Demon's Vajra trap, Sun Wukong would immediately retreat. That was his personality. He was not afraid of anything, and he had the ability to do so. However, Sun Wukong was not stupid. When faced with a difficult enemy, he would choose to retreat strategically. But, since he has already agreed to my challenge, then Sun Wukong will definitely not break his promise. This is morality. That's right. Little brother is right. Sun Wukong, who was flying in the air just now, appeared on the house next to Wu Ming. I haven't come out for a long time, so I just wanted to stretch my muscles. It seemed that Sun Wukong was indeed very excited. He was half squatting on the eaves, scratching his ears and cheeks with a smile on his face. Then, who is more comfortable now, the great sage equal to heaven's equal to you after you left the Five Fingers Mountain? Wu Ming was not in a hurry to fight with Sun Wukong, so he began to talk with Sun Wukong. Of course it's now. After I left the Five Fingers Mountain, I have to protect my master and go to the west to obtain the Buddhist scriptures. How can I be as happy as now? Sun Wukong said as he somersaulted twice on the eaves, feeling very uncomfortable. Is that so? Wu Ming pondered. Then, are you the Monkey King, traveling monk's son, or the victorious fighting Buddha now? Wu Ming asked a rather serious question. This was like summoning a servant. In a Holy Grail war, several sides of a heroic spirit might be summoned. It was just like summoning an old man and a young man with the same true name at different times. That was not impossible. Sun Wukong stopped moving and sat down. Now, I, old son, am traveling monk Sunday, that's really a pity. I was looking forward to fighting with you in your heyday. Wu Ming had once seen a picture of 3 Sun Wukongs on it. The first one was the Monkey King who was still living a carefree life in the mountain of flowers and fruits. The second one was the traveling monk's son who was rescued by Tang Sanzang and protected by his 2 junior brothers. The third one was the victorious fighting Buddha who had achieved great merit and was conferred the title by Gautama Buddha. The first Sun Wukong was laughing happily because he was playing with his monkeys. The second Sun Wukong started to frown because of the 81 difficulties. The third Sun Wukong became a Buddha and started to think about how to save the world. There was no need to explain the reason. In Wu Ming's opinion, the Sun Wukong who laughed the most happily was the strongest Sun Wukong. Wu Ming felt that to determine whether a person was strong or not, it did not depend on how many methods they had, but how strong their heart was. I didn't expect that a god of disobedience like you would understand the power of the heart. Sun Wukong looked at Wu Ming in surprise. After all, those who turned into gods of disobedience were those who rebelled against their fate and didn't follow the story that was arranged for them. The reason why I, Old Sun, am here is to rebel against that Gautama Buddha. I, Old Sun, want to be my own great sage. This might be the reason why Sun Wukong was wearing the golden armor. Sun Wukong took out something from his ear and a shining golden weapon appeared in his hand. So, if you want to let me, Old Sun, return to my legend, you have to ask if the Jingu Bang in my hand agrees or not. You have your own reasons, and I have my own reasons. Then, let's use martial arts to determine who is stronger. After saying that, Wu Ming took out a staff from the golden ripples. The undying king's nest of darkness, the land of the opposite sex, the home of absolute evil. Show your 10 layers of barriers and capture the enemies who dare to provoke me. Nazalic Underground Lake. Barrier. Looking at Wu Ming who slammed the staff on the ground, Sun Wukong immediately took action and summoned the legendary Somersault Cloud. With its amazing speed, Somersault Cloud could definitely escape from this barrier. However, Sun Wukong still underestimated the speed of Wu Ming's barrier, which was a little faster than Sun Wukong's Somersault Cloud. As a result, Sun Wukong, Wu Ming, Erica, Liliana, Hui Na, and Wanli-gu entered a large lake together. The fourth layer of Nazalic was a large lake that basically covered the entire fourth layer. Only a small part of the land was used for teleportation. The underground lake was filled with a large number of water monsters, all of which were hidden in the depths of the underground lake. Not only were there 4 level 85 summer primal water elemental, but there was also a level 95 dark skeletal dragonfish. Moreover, these monsters had the ability to hide. It could be said that as long as the enemy didn't get too close, they would die in the hands of these monsters. After casting Shield of Water Goblins on the 4 women, Wu Ming looked at Sun Wukong, who was floating in the air on a golden cloud. Let this be the final stop for you to return to your legend. Chapter 207. In the face of Wu Ming's bold words, Goku chuckled. Anyone can talk big. Can't you let me return to the myth? Let's see who's the real deal. After that, Goku rushed toward Wu Ming with his golden staff. Ha! Have a taste of my staff. Boom! Wu Ming held the meteor silver with both hands and began to clash with the legendary divine weapon, the golden cudgel. Bang bang bang! The sword and the staff kept colliding with each other, and sparks flew every time they collided. The physical impact of the two has already caused turbulent waves in the underground lake. At this moment, the monsters at the bottom of the lake were already confused by the battle between the two. However, Goku was not known for his martial arts, and soon, Goku fell into a disadvantage. As expected of a steel like me, you have reached such a level with just your martial arts. You have to be careful. After saying that, Sun Wukong made a feint, turned into a breeze, and fled in all directions. Because each floor of Nazalic was quite large, Goku's escape could still affect Wu Ming. But after all, this was a fixed barrier, that is, there was a boundary, and Goku couldn't escape from here. However, there was no guarantee that Goku didn't have the means to break the fixed barrier. To deal with Goku, who turned into a breeze, Wu Ming began to chant. Fear the one with wings. Evil people and powerful people are all afraid of me who have wings. My wings will bring you a curse. Evil people can't hit me. The pointer on the stone plate in Wu Ming's heart turned, and at 10 o'clock, a stone plate engraved with a phoenix spreading its wings lit up. Like a ray of light, Wu Ming turned around and flew away. In the distance, Goku appeared and looked at the light that was chasing him. Change! Sun Wukong plucked the hair on his head and blew gently. Countless Sun Wukongs that looked exactly like him appeared beside him. These Goku didn't say a word and swarmed toward Wu Ming with the golden staff. Wu Ming stopped and floated on the surface of the lake. He looked at the incoming Sun Wukong clone and chanted again. God says that humans are sinful. Instantly, the surface of the lake began to ripple. God says that humans need to be purified. The surface of the lake fluctuated violently. Thus, I shall bestow the torrential flood upon my body. Sun Wuming's many clones approached Wuming. In the name of the Supreme King, I will grant you an equal release. Wuming's body burst out with a huge amount of magic power, and a spiral water column rose from the lake's surface. After he finished chanting, Wuming turned the short needle on the stone plate in his heart to the 6-0 direction. The stone plate was engraved with a monstrous flood. Not good. He quickly summoned the somersault cloud and rushed to the edge of the inherent barrier, regardless of whether his doppelganger could affect Wuming. The torrential flood drowned all of Sun Wukong's clones. The immense power contained in the flood crushed all of them. Stay here for me. At this moment, Wuming, who had used the flood power, was like the god of the sea. He floated in the air, surrounded by many water columns. He didn't know where the water came from, but the super-high flood instantly surged and rushed towards Sun Wukong, who had entered the god of speed state. The flood drowned the only trace of land on the 4th level of Nazalic. The entire inherent barrier turned into a vast ocean. Like a huge rock smashing into an ant, the flood instantly caught up with Sun Wukong at the edge of the inherent barrier and drowned him in an instant. The edge of the inherent barrier began to crack, and the sound of it being unable to bear the weight was heard. Sun Wukong, who was submerged by the flood, had already been crushed. Wuming waved his hand, and a monkey hair emitting a bright golden light flew over. As expected, Sun Wukong is indeed the ever-changing Sun Wukong. The Sun Wukong who talked to me at the beginning was transformed from his monkey hair. This was one of the reasons why Wuming could easily destroy Sun Wukong. However, it's not like I didn't prepare for it. Wuming took out the staff of Ains Wukong and removed the inherent barrier. Returning to the Western Heaven Palace, Wuming was greeted with the sight of the ruined walls after being swept by the storm. Closing his eyes and sensing for a moment, Wuming activated the Phoenix transformation and flew in a certain direction. At the foot of Mount Riguang, Erica and Liliana were fighting a monster with a pig head and a human body that looked like the wild boar of Welslana. Hui Na of the Qingqiu courtyard was fighting off many 2-meter-tall apes and protecting Yoli, who had no combat ability. On the other side not far away, Neza, who had been killed by Silent, was fighting against a monster who looked similar to him and was holding a crescent spade in the form of an 8-armed, 3-headed Dharma god with green face and fangs. Lord Wuming. Wanli Gu Yoli didn't need to fight, so he was the first to notice Wuming. Yo Wuming, Neza also said like a child. However, with such a green face and fangs, it was really hard to look at him directly. The rest of the women also noticed Wuming's arrival, but because they had to pay attention to the enemy in front of them, they didn't have time to greet Wuming for the time being. Is this the combination of steel and snake that elder brother mentioned? It's really extraordinary. The monster with a crescent shovel commented first. Seriously, eldest senior brother. This guy isn't even a beauty. What's there to say? The two beauties in front of me are much more pleasing. Letting out a series of pig noises, the pig-headed man wiped his saliva and continued to fight with Erica and Liliana. Erica and Liliana, on the other hand, cast advanced magic as if they were disgusted by it. Standing behind Liliana, Erica raised her rapier and chanted a spell. Liliana, on the other hand, helped Erica resist the pigmen. Eli, Lima Sabachthani, my God, why did you abandon me? Lord, why did you abandon me? Lord, I call during the day, but you do not answer, I call at night, but you are silent. But you are the Holy One, baptized by many hymns of Israel. My bones decayed and collapsed, my heart turned into wax, and my body dissolved in it. Please abandon me in the dust of death. Dogs surround me, and I will be abused by evildoers. Become my strength, give me help as soon as possible. Save my soul from the sword, save me from the lion's teeth, save me from the horn of the bison. Let me tell you the name of the Lord, praise him in the center of the world, convert and dedicate him. After the words were spoken, the surrounding air seemed to be frozen. Wyrm speculated that if ordinary people with weak bodies were here, they might die instantly. Lend me your sword. As she spoke, Erica stabbed at the pig-headed monster. Humph, beauty, you don't want to play with such a dangerous thing? The pig-headed monster retreated abruptly. It seemed that he was afraid of the words attached to Reinhardt. While Erica forced the pig-headed monster to retreat, Liliana also began to chant the words. Mountains of Gilboa, I pray for the rain of manna to fall upon thee. Offer the sacrifice that thirsty beasts yearn for. Give up yourself and become the shield of your warriors. Saul's shield, pour oil into it and dedicate yourself to this place. Jonathan's bow will never back down from the blood of the enemy. Saul's sword will never return to its scabbard until it devours the flesh of the brave. Until this body is defeated. Jonathan's bow, the weapon of the brave who is as fast as a vulture and as strong as a lion. Run, and crush your enemies. After Liliana finished chanting, the temperature in the air dropped. A blue longbow of the same size appeared behind Liliana. The longbow was attached to the Grandmaster's silver-ranked weapon, and the silver-white military knife turned into a blue longbow. Liliana placed her right hand on the bowstring, and the blue light instantly turned into 4 arrows. He pulled the string to a full moon, and then, whoosh whoosh whoosh. 4 blue arrows that suddenly enlarged on the way shot towards the pigman. Because of Erica's interference, the pigman did not dodge. So that is the spirit of Golgotha and the spirit of David? Chapter 208. Wyrm landed beside Wanli Gu Yoli and Hui Na of the clear autumn courtyard. He raised his hand gently, and countless golden chains shot out of the golden ripples in the void, trapping the apes one by one. Lord Wyrm, what are the Golgothas and David's language spirits that you mentioned? Wanli Gu Yoli might have the title of the highest level witch, but she was a newbie in magic, so she didn't know much about the highest level magic. They are the highest level language spirits in magic, the Golgothas and David's language spirits, Hui Na of the clear autumn courtyard, who had been living in seclusion in the mountains all year round, spoke up. After all, Hui Na was only cultivating in seclusion and wasn't isolated from the world, so she still knew about magic. That's right. The Golgotha's language spirit is the highest level magic. It's a language spirit with a strong curse effect. It's a hymn known as the Song of Calamity that Christ sang with all his might before his death on the Golgotha's execution ground. It's said that ordinary people with weaker bodies will die instantly if they approach it. It's a language spirit that can bestow hatred and despair on the sword. The spirit of David's words, on the other hand, is the Song of the Bow. If the spirit of Golgotha that Erica uses is the spirit of hatred and despair, then the spirit of David's words is the spirit of sorrow that seeps into one's heart. It is the lament of the undead in the picture. It is also one of the magic spells of the highest level. Wyrm looked at Erica and Liliana, who were working together to repel the pig-headed men. Most importantly, these 2 language spirits have the effect of harming God. Harming God. Wanli Gu Yoli covered her mouth in astonishment. Don't be so surprised. Humans are such mystical creatures. It's not surprising that they can invent magic that harms God. Wyrm couldn't help but chuckle at Yoli's reaction. Hui Na of the clear autumn courtyard added. Besides, your majesty forgot to mention that these 2 language spirits are very difficult to master. In history, only some great beings have mastered these 2 language spirits. Wyrm also nodded. That's right. Both of these language spirits are magic spells that place a considerable burden on the body. If one is not careful, one's magic power will be sucked dry and one will die. Speaking of this, Wyrm looked at Erica and Liliana with appreciation. Wyrm estimated that even in Skahar's eyes, the 2 girls were quite excellent. At least Skahar could teach them to be on par with Cuchulainn. Huina, go help Erica and Liliana. No problem, Your Majesty. Hui Na smiled virtuously and ran towards the pork man with the black sky cloud sword. I feel like that sword is afraid of me. Wu Ming mumbled. Lord Wu Ming, what did you say? Yuli had a puzzled look on his face. It's nothing. By the way, these two are Sun Wukong's subordinate gods, Zhu Ganglai and Sha Wujing, right? Wu Ming asked Yuli. That's right. After you trapped the great sage equaling heavens in, your inherent barrier, another great sage equaling heavens appeared and attacked us. It seemed that Wanli Gu Yoli was not used to the term inherent barrier. However, to be honest, there seemed to be no such thing in this world. Then, when Miss Erica, Miss Liliana, and Huina were unable to resist, Lord Neza, who claimed to be your authority, saved us. After Wanli Gu Yoli finished his narration, Wu Ming understood the cause and effect. After Sun Wukong escaped from the cage, he used the doppelganger technique in the sky. His original purpose was to let his doppelganger restrain Wu Ming while he went to find an earth vein to replenish his strength. However, he found that Wu Ming and Sun Wukong's doppelganger had entered the barrier. Therefore, he wanted to attack Erica and the others with the thought that one less enemy would be one less enemy. But in the end, Neza did not appear. Wu Ming did not expect that he would obtain authority similar to a familiar after killing Neza. However, when he recalled Neza's rolling eyes before he was killed by Wu Ming understood. After all, Neza appeared because he wanted to have fun and was attracted by Wu Ming's dragon and snake attributes. Therefore, in order to continue having fun on the earth, Neza gave Wu Ming the authority to summon himself. The god of disobedience had the ability to control and bestow authority to the person who killed them. Due to the issue of their dignity and personality, they would normally not bestow any useless authority to the god slayer. However, the authority that Luo Hao obtained that allowed the technology around her to rapidly develop was purely because Luo Hao had killed Saturnus. Saturnus was a god of harvest. It seemed that because he knew that his clone could not hold Wu Ming for a long time, he directly summoned Zhu Ganglai and Sha Wujing as his subordinate gods to resist Neza, Erica, and the others. He went to a spiritual mountain not far from Riguang Mountain and began to replenish his magical power. After all, Sun Wu Ming was a spiritual stone, which had a fate with the earth. It could be said that he was the steel that protected the dragon and snake, so he could also draw power from the earth. In this way, Neza, who was weakened because of his authority, faced Sha Wujing, who was weakened because he became Sun Wu Ming's subordinate god. Erica and Liliana faced Zhu Ganglai, who was also weakened because he became Sun Wu Ming's subordinate god. As for Wanli Gu Yoli and Hui Na of the Qingqiu courtyard, they were protected by Hui Na because Yoli did not know how to fight. As for those 2-meter-tall apes, they were ordinary humans under the Sunshine Mountain transformed by Sun Wukong's influence. Logically speaking, as long as the god of followers was not defeated, the target would recover. This was also the reason why Hui Na only repelled them and did not kill them. I see, Xiao En, can you restore them? Wu Ming asked. The golden chain wrapped around the apes made a sound. No problem, Wu Ming, Sama. Huh? Wanli Gu Yoli was obviously taken aback. Then, the golden chain emitted a ray of light, so the entangled apes stopped struggling and all of them turned into humans. Then, Wu Ming instructed Enkidu to transport all these humans to a flat area. Then, Wu Ming looked at Wanli Gu Yoli, took off the dragon horn on his head, and handed it to her. Take Kalas with you first. If there is any danger, Kalas will protect you. Even if Kalas did not have the slightest offensive ability, Kalas had a series of powerful support skills such as hiding, teleportation, shield, and HP regeneration. Moreover, if she activated a super powerful enemy detection skill, she could detect the enemy in advance before they approached and give instructions for the next action. Are you going to look for the great sage, heaven's equal, Lord Wu Ming? Wanli Gu Yoli took Kalas and then asked worriedly. Yes, after all, I was the one who released him. It's my fault for not trapping him with an inherent barrier. I'll try my best to reduce the damage to the surroundings. After saying that, Wyrm turned around and was about to leave. "Please wait a moment," Yoli shouted. Wyrm turned his head and looked at Yoli, who called out to him. "Please come back safely, please." Looking at Yoli's rare serious face, Wyrm said with a smile. "Ah, of course. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.